everybody, and welcome to Ring Post Radio. I am the voice of the tasteless Ryan Knightsey, and as you can see, I'm by myself today. I'm doing my. If you're watching the video, I'm doing my weird Trump hands for some reason. I'm by myself today. I am Scottless. I'm Scottless in Seattle today. He is off during his yearly family vacation. I hope he's having a good time. I hope he's riding Space Mountain with, not with Ric Flair, but at the very least with his family. And I hope he's enjoying himself. But I'm here by myself today, celebrating wrestling and Mother's Day with you all today. And it wasn't just, you're not just getting a full Ring Post Radio with little old Ryan here. Everyone's a little scamp, I guess. You also got, if you are a subscriber to Ring Post Radio or Count Out Wrestling podcast feeds on any of your podcasting apps, you got a bonus Patreon episode unlocked for free for you right now. But I'll talk about that more in a moment. We got a big time show for you all today. I'm still recovering from the flu and bronchitis. My ear is less perforated, but still not great. But I'm here to serve you all those hot, classic Ring Post Radio takes and victory laps that I will be taking. But we got a lot to get to. Of course, we got some wrestling news to start off with. We're going to talk about New Japan Strong Resurgence that happened last night. We're going to talk about BOSJ Best of Super Juniors Night 1 that happened last morning, 2 nights ago, I guess. We're not going to talk about that All Japan Champion Carnival because the username and password that I used, that may or may not be Scotty's, was unable to use it this morning, so I didn't watch the finals. But I heard it was good. Well, I don't know if I heard it was good, but I heard the winners, so that's fine. We're going to talk about previewing Stardom's pay-per-view this weekend, Stardom Flashing Champions. That's this Saturday, so we're going to talk about that as well. And like I said, we have some news, and I will be befallen with some hard times. We'll get to that at the end of the show. But I want to start off with some news. That we got in the wrestling world this week, like we always do with Ring Post Radio. Let me pull up my freaking list here. All right, here we go. So all this news is mostly AEW news. They have a lot of different individual wrestler news that popped up this week. So let's get into it, folks. First off, AEW star Kenny Omega says that he is going to undergo surgery very, very, very soon. I have to imagine that means this week or something, which is, it's exciting in a weird way to see this guy get surgery. Obviously, if you don't know, he's been suffering from diverticulitis for months, I think, at this point. I don't know if we ever got a quick timetable of when that started, but at the very least, to my knowledge, he's been suffering with it for months. He did show back up on Dynamite this past Wednesday, teased an angle with Okada, and then was involved in a actual wrestling angle heat segment, I guess, with the Elite, with the Young Bucks, with Jack Perry as well. He announced on Friday night his Twitch stream that he'll be having surgery done soon with a doctor who is at top of the field. Quote, "I have a wonderful doctor that I was able to find. And he is someone who is the top of his field. And he's very hard to get appointments with, and he's very hard to get surgeries with. However, he has done me a solid, and he'll actually be getting surgery very, very, very soon." So he's getting a solid there, so that's good. He says that he's feeling good about it and that he's optimistic. So what does that mean? This news coming out after Wednesday's Dynamite show, to me, is a little telling. I think, it's Omega. The guy loves telling fibs and telling lies and moving stuff around. I don't think this guy just found out this information and then told everybody on Twitch. I think he's had this information for a little bit, so much so that he is willing to come back to television, to be a part of an angle, knowing that it's going to have surgery soon, and also knowing that, teasing this idea of, Okada, let's wrestle maybe in a couple months. So I think Kenny Omega believes that the surgery happening seemingly within next week. That's what very, very, very soon reads to me. and he thinks and he feels confident about it, and he's optimistic about it. To me, that reads that he is probably going to be out for a couple months and then come back. He teases better than ever. He teases New Japan levels, Kenny Omega, Okada, Okada, Omega rivalry levels. So I'm optimistic about that. AEW needs some more energy into it right now with more baby faces in there. Ospreay can't carry that load all by himself. And Swerve, even though he's a top champion, he is a face. He's more of a tweener, sort of a gray area face at that. So bringing Omega back, having him on TV, hopefully being able to come back and wrestle at the same level of an Okada, of an Ospreay, would be another shot in the arm that AEW, I think, really needs. But speaking of shots in the arm that AEW needs, well, I don't know if this is a big shot in the arm. If anything, this might be, what's a lack of a shot of an arm? Bryan Danielson, he says recently that an interview with Casual Conversations with the Classic I've never heard of this. What is this? This is a podcast. Oh, the wrestling artwork is, how did they score this interview? The wrestling artwork is so interesting. Anyways, in an interview with, I guess this is Justin Dilhone. I have no idea. The Wrestling Classic podcast. Bryan Danielson says that his AEW contract actually expires before All In 2024. That's not great. That's not great at all. He says despite this, he still wants to compete at Wembley Stadium. And not only that he wants to compete at Wembley Stadium, he also wants to go on and wrestle at Wrestle Dream in Seattle. I'm trying to see if I can find the quote. I'm not sure if I'll make it, but one thing that would be nice, a way to close kind of everything out for me, is to do my last match as a full-time wrestler at Wrestle Dream at the Tacoma Dome. So his contract is over, but he kind of wants to continue to wrestle for, what was Wrestle Dream last year? Let's see. AEW Wrestle Dream. Was that October? It was, just gives me a year. Okay, here we go. It was October 1st, and the next one's gonna be October 12th. So this guy's contract expires August-ish, late August, early September, for AEW. But he wants to continue wrestling for, at the very least, a month, 2 months, in AEW. So this is a full-time contract. We knew that his contract he was in the last year of his full-time contract. We knew that he's planning to quote unquote retire as a full-time wrestler. No one knows exactly. I got a smudge in my glasses. No one knows exactly what that means when Bryan Danielson retires as a full-time wrestler. I believe also in this interview says that when he retires, he wants to be more involved in his community and his child's schooling. So I love PTA member Bryan Danielson. He's there talking about apples being sperm of trees to fellow parents of the school district, and they're like, who is this guy? What is up with this guy? Has this guy been bonked in the head too many times? And the answer is yes. The answer is definitely yes. But this at least shows interest of Bryan Danielson, maybe not getting a full-time contract, but maybe renewing in some sort of part-time dealio. I don't know if AEW really has these sort of like part-time contracts that exist in WWE, and to the level of 10 dates a year, maybe less than that. I don't think AEW really has those sort of contracts in place. They've never had any wrestlers that really done those sort of contracts to my knowledge before. And yeah, I don't know. At the very least, it showcases that he's willing to stick around with AEW, and I think that is good for AEW. Obviously, Bryan Danielson has been killing it for the past year. He was my wrestler of the year in 2023, and in 2024, he's killing it. Hassan Albani in the chat also notes that he kind of hinted when he worked backstage. He's been working backstage for the past year or so, and so continuing that backstage work and maybe popping up here and there as a part-time wrestler, I think is probably going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. It's just a matter of a new contract, really, for AEW and what that means for AEW. You want to make sure you want to lock in Bryan Danielson. Obviously he wants to finish everything up at Wrestle Dream. I don't get the impression that he's pulling a fast one on Tony Khan and he's walking back over to WWE to work for old Paul. But no matter what, you want to make sure you lock down this guy for both backstage roles and whatever part-time work he wants to do, assumingly. Other AEW news. We got a bunch of AEW news. I'm going to get through these rather quickly. Sammy Guevara. That's right. Sammy Guevara. Remember him? No longer suspended by AEW. It was reported on this week's Wrestling Observer newsletter that he is no longer suspended by AEW, but, quote, there has been stuff pitched, but nothing confirmed. So there's nothing really in play for Sammy Guevara per se immediately, but he's not suspended anymore. And part of that suspension, I have to imagine, was also, he was suspended, but also I imagine part of it was not maternity leave, but paternity leave after having his newborn with his wife. So what does this mean? I don't know. I don't really care. It's Sammy Guevara. He is a guy that would benefit so greatly from moving to another company. AEW has been, he is a pillar in AEW. That is a thing that matters to Tony Khan and AEW at large. But he is a guy that he has potential at the jump, and he has never improved. And so many of these other guys have lapped him. MJF has lapped him. Darby has lapped him. Jack Perry. I was a day one Jack Perry hater, and now Jack Perry's at the top of the list. He's the number one pillar in this company. Sammy Guevara has not elevated, and what's disappointing is that you saw like a little bit of something in Sammy Guevara in that new heel gimmick with the Don Callis family. You saw something different, something new with Sammy, but then they blew that up with the whole baby stuff, and he became a face again, and then he got suspended. So I don't know. If I'm AEW, of course, I don't have any more ideas what to do with this guy. You try to turn him heel. You immediately had to turn that off. And now you don't have any ideas. And then you get suspended. What, this is his third time, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what we do with the guy. I don't know when his contract's up. Maybe this year, because, that would be, a 5-year contract? I don't know. I would let the guy go. But I also understand that Tony Khan is extremely loyal. And Sammy Guevara is a pillar. And that is someone that he, day one, wanted to push. You got to do something with him. Tony Khan wants to do something with Sammy all the time. But Sammy is not, I think, living up to his end of the deal. And that's a disappointment. There is a disappointing thing. I know people don't like Sammy Guevara for several reasons, and I think that a lot of those reasons are fair. I think it's just, it's a little disappointment when you see a guy who has the office backing him, but just doesn't improve. You want to see new stars generated in wrestling. You want to see new people become the next faces of this whatever era of wrestling. And a guy that is obviously backed heavily by the company, by Tony Khan, by AEW, just isn't quite bringing it. And there's a little bit of a disappointment there. I gotta admit. But ultimately, it's also I want to see something. Hassan, thank you so much for the comments in the chat. In the ring, Guevara's very good. He's not got his character yet, and I think that's a big part. He's in the ring. He's very good. He hasn't really evolved too much in a while, but it's still very, very good. His character work is just kind of all over the place. He's a natural heel. You look at this guy, you want to boo him. He's a natural heel. And when they finally turn him the heel again, they immediately undo it. So it's kind of I don't know. He's got Big Show syndrome is the best way I can put it. This guy has got Big Show heel face turning syndrome. You gotta stick with one thing and ride it. But it's hard to ride it when this guy gets suspended all the time. So, and then the last bit of AEW news that popped up this week, because this was the only big news that I was seeing. I mean, WWE had news; they have news going on. It's more like King of the Ring. news that's happening. They did just WWE did just let go 2 more people, but TKO claims that was because of the merging UFC WWE merger. These jobs are no longer useful, but and also it's WWE executives producing people that like I have no idea what their job is. I even work in television and film, and I don't know what their job is, and I can't break that down. Who knows? Their jobs were taken care of, so I don't know. That's basically the WB news from this week that I really saw. But the other news I wanted to shout out here was that Chuck Taylor, Wrestling Observer newsletter, also states that Chuck Taylor's injury seems legitimate to the point of he may never be able to wrestle again. Dave writes, quote, "In storyline, they say it's over, but have also given wiggle room. From what we are told, what was said on television was accurate, and the belief right now is that Chuck Taylor won't be able to wrestle again." Excalibur on the show said due to the nature of the fracture and the presence of necrosis of the bone, death of the bone. This guy's got dead bones and fragments underneath the cartilage. The injury is likely career ending. Granted, he goes on saying, Sting, Danielson, Shibata, Copeland, Cage, all in this very roster were told that, may have believed that at some point, but all came back and did great things. So is this the end for Chuck Taylor? I don't know. Are they feeding Dave lies? I doubt it. They could certainly be selling this injury, but at the very least, there is who knows. I think it's totally believable that this is a legit injury. I think that is the thing to believe. And there's also other reports saying that Chuck Taylor is apparently training to become a backstage producer type, which I think is the natural transition. The guy, ever since Orange Cassidy came to the company, and part of Trent Beretta's actually heel work, is ever since Orange came into the company, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta kind of got pushed to the back burner. They were a solid tag team at the beginning of AEW, but as the company grew, as more tag teams came in, as like I said, as Orange became more popular and became the bigger thing, Best Friends got kind of pushed to the back. And also, Tony Khan's a big Roppongi Vice guy, because as soon as he was able to use Rocky Romero, he would rather have Rocky and Trent Beretta mix it up in tag team competition, apparently, over him and Chuck Taylor. So I don't know. Chuck Taylor's been kind of pushed with the back burner for quite a while now. It was nice. It was really nice to see the guy go out in classic Chuck Taylor deathmatch parking lot brawl action. That's where the guy shines the most. But it's always disappointing to see somebody have a possible career-ending injury. You never say never in wrestling. Obviously, you can never say never in wrestling. So we'll sort of see what happens moving forward, see if he can recover from this. But let's look it up. Chuck Taylor is 38 years old. I mean, that's young. That is quite young. But even then, 38 years old, who knows how much longer that would, how long this injury is going to put him on the shelf. Even if he comes back 45 or something, I don't, he's not someone you push, right? He's Chuck Taylor. He's Chuck Taylor in AEW. The sad truth is that he is one of these all-time comedy deathmatch, weirdly, 2010s indie wrestlers, right? He's up there in that grouping. He's one of the greats, I think. But, in 2024, obviously 2023, even 2022, he's not really a guy that AEW has been looking at pushing. WWE is not going to pick up the guy, obviously, and especially with an injury, career-ending injury. So it's he's, even if he came back, it's not going to be a comeback like a Christian Cage or an Adam Copeland, sadly. I am glad and very interested to see what a producing Chuck Taylor looks like, a guy with responsibilities, Chuck Taylor. I am fascinated to see what that looks like. I won't know what that looks like because it's behind the scenes, so I don't know why I'm so interested, but I am. I would be interested to see what this looks like moving forward. And maybe, just maybe, we'll get some of those backstage producing reports from old Fightful for AEW. I don't think they ever get them from Fightful. They only get them from WWE. Interesting. I don't know what to say. I don't know if there's anything to say about that. I don't know about that. Anything to say about Fightful this week? I don't know if I want to step into that one this week. Anyways, let's move on. I gotta get a thing of water. Let me text my wife. I gotta get a thing of water. My throat is dying. You can already hear it. You can already hear it. Let me text my wife real quick. Can you bring a glass of water? Perfect. I should have come prepared. I'm so not prepared. What a mistake on my end. Let's talk about New Japan Strong Resurgence. This show took place last night in Ontario, California, not Canada. After this weekend, after this past 2 weeks in wrap, I don't think anyone should step foot in Canada. They took it into Ontario, California. And I thought this show was actually really good. There wasn't anything for me. I take that back. There was probably one match in here for me that I thought was great, and that being the Gabe Kidd, Eddie Kingston stuff, barring potential injury to Eddie Kingston, because he took that, what was that suplex off the apron, snapped back right his legs and his hip directly on that barricade. Looked real nasty, but otherwise the match itself was really good. But I think that was probably the best match in the show. But other than that, nothing really got into that great echelon consistent for me other than that match. But the entire show was consistently really good, I thought. I thought top down, a lot of people put on the working boots. Some people that I haven't seen working boots from them in a very long time, probably like a year or so. I thought everyone did a really bang up job and really came out to show out. So let's go through this card shortly. Let me pull up my notes here. We'll start off with the main event, and then we'll work our way from the top to the bottom to the semi. Let's start off with that main event. Main event being, of course, Jon Moxley versus Shota Umino for the IWGP World Heavyweight title match. Of course, these guys have a significant amount of history. They have, perfect. Thank you, wife. Thank you, Jesse. Glass of water. What's that? You didn't like when I said thank you, wife?
It sounded weird.
Thank you, honey bun. Is that better? Oh, that's worse. Okay, great. So main event, Jon Moxley, Shota Umino. Obviously, these guys have 5 years of history, going all the way back to when Moxley came into the company, wrestled Shota Umino, young lion Shota Umino at the time, at Dominion. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say that was Moxley's first match in New Japan before he actually came in for the G1 Climax. Let's look this up real quick. Oh, no, I take that back. He won the title off of Juice Robinson at Best of Super Juniors, the finals. And then at Dominion, June 9th, 2019, faced Shota Umino and beat his ass in 4 minutes. This match did not go 4 minutes, I'll tell you that much. But it was that main event 5 years later. Shooter, now no longer a young lion. Now a guy who is coming up, a new rising star in New Japan's ranks, facing the title holder, world title holder, in Jon Moxley. I thought, let's look at my notes here. I don't really want to go match, but let's go a little bit match by match. A little break up down the match a little bit. So Shota, I thought, was a nice start here. He attacks Mox. He says that he really wants to win this match with a Death Rider, and he's going to attack Mox for the jump. He has a long control segment to start, really beating down Moxley, specifically his knee. Now, that knee gets promptly dropped later in the show, later in this match. It becomes not a thing anymore. Like the entire first third, maybe, of this match is leg work, knee work from Shota onto Mox's knee. And that becomes not important anymore. So just throw out that first third. Mox eventually brings on the table. There's an elbow drop of Shooter putting Mox through said table. And this is where Mox gets his ass beat some more. We get some counters of Bulldog chokes into STFs. There was a nice little spot here where Mox is pinned down by Shooter Umino. He's got his arms Shooter pins Moxley's arms underneath him, his head face down, and Shooter's above him. And what this was, I thought was a nice little bit. Call back to the Ospreay feud, Will Ospreay versus Shooter, where Ospreay won, I want to say at least one, maybe two matches with Ospreay just nailing Shooter in the back of the head with elbows, so much so that the referee calling the bout there. So nice little spot here. It lasted only for a little bit, and Shooter lets up, and I'm thinking to myself, why are you letting up? You've lost to these elbows to the back of the head before, Shooter. Just keep piling them in. I will also say those elbows didn't look too strong. That's fine. They don't look like Ospreay's. That's fine. You know, he's still new. We'll give him a little time. Shooter teases a top rope death rider and nails it. Match starts picking up a lot more. The two beat each other down on, and Mox hits a massive lariat for 2. Mox then hits the death rider. Shooter kicks out of it at 2. We get a close call finish for Shooter when he hits a spinning death rider for 2, which kind of looked pretty nice. Shooter hits a running uppercut to the back. Mox then eventually hits a stomp into a death rider, dead center of the ring, and Moxley retains. So a lot of people really like this match. I'm seeing on Cage Match right now, the votes are slowly coming in. We got 8 votes right now, 8.44 for this match. I don't know. I think I'm the low man. I think I'm the low man on the totem pole. I think a lot of it has to do with also my entering feelings, my feelings on Shota Umino. The match for me was a little too 50-50 for my liking. Granted, you know, last time these guys wrestled, Shooter was a young lion, gets ass beat in 4 minutes, and he obviously needs way more offense than 5 years ago. This match ultimately going 34 minutes and 18 seconds. So he was able to times 10 or whatever his gimmick here. But I would have preferred, I think it was the wrong story to tell. The story ultimately of the match is Shooter is now on the level of Moxley. Shooter is a guy that Moxley now has to dig deep, find something to bring something out of himself because Shooter is beating his ass more than he expected. It doesn't really come into play fully. It's not like Moxley unveils a new finisher or does something different, but he has to work harder and faster and longer to beat Shooter because Shooter is coming back to him and being 50-50. 50-50 makes sense. But I also, because of my, I think, personal bias of Shooter, I don't know if 50-50 works completely. Mox is a dominating guy and has been for a while now, maybe a year or so. I would have preferred like a 75-25, maybe 60-40 or something, where Mox beats Shooter up a lot more, and Shooter has to be working underneath as the underdog babyface to try to catch up and overcome Moxley. You know, if you give Shooter that fighting spirit storyline, I think the match would have gone over better for the crowd and would have worked better to sort of Moxley be shocked by, you know, this idea. You know, the idea of this match is this is the final test for Shooter Umino, for Shota Umino, for Jon Moxley. And I don't know if the final test was aced. And when it comes to Shota Umino, I don't know if his final test was aced. If you want to use whatever symbolism you want there. I'm not huge on Shooter. He, you know, like I said, they get the knee stuff. It was completely left out of the finish of the story. Didn't matter. But it's this constant thing with Shooter also that I don't really like. It's the complaint I've always had about Shooter is that he wants to be a star, but he is not quite a star for me. He has moments where he's like that, but he doesn't quite nail it all the time for me. You get those constant complaints of him being a Tanahashi-esque guy. You get the thing of the guy being a Moxley guy, right? And in this match, the entire point of Shooter's finish here is that he wants to beat Moxley with his own move, the Death Rider. Shooter, beat the guy with your finisher. Don't beat the guy with his finisher. Maybe that's a respect thing, but you want to showcase to Jon Moxley that you are a new guy, a new star. Stop replicating Moxley. Be your own man. That's what I've always wanted from Shooter, is be your own man. Don't be Tanahashi. You're not that ace. Don't be Jon Moxley. You are not that ace. You even have other guys in New Japan, these young guys. Tsuji, very defined, his own man, his own aura, his own confidence. Narita, I think, is his own guy, part of House of Torture. He was the Shibata lookalike guy for a very long time. That didn't work. They put him in House of Torture, and I think he's found something even there. Even if I don't really love it, but he's found something there. Even Yuya Uemura has a gimmick where it's basically he's the master of basic holds, has such a great understanding of technical ability, wrestling skills or whatever. Shota Umino, I want to see him be his own dude. I don't want to see him do the Death Ride anymore. I don't want to see him being this Tanahashi ace type. I want to see not a reflection of the past. I want to see something moving into the future. And I don't have that with Shota Umino. Maybe other people do. Scotty certainly does. But I don't have that in Shota. I don't want to see a guy trying to win with a Death Rider. I want to see this guy win with his ignition turn switch DDT gimmick, which I don't remember the name of it. I think it's called ignition or whatever. I don't even remember what it's called because it didn't matter fully. He hit it. He didn't get the win with it, but he hit it. But he was too focused on the Death Rider. Don't be Moxley. Don't be Tana. Be Shota Umino. But I was probably the low man on the thing. The limb work stuff getting fully, blown out and not used at all. It was a little slow. It picked up a lot. I still really liked it. I still really like this match. I think I'm just the low man on the totem pole. I'm just expecting more from Shota Umino, a guy that people out there call the ace, the next ace of New Japan. If you want to bring this company into the present, I'll even say the present, bring it into the future. Don't be the past. Be the future. That's all I want to say. But it's victory lap time. Because after the match, Evil and Ren Narita come out and beat down Moxley. They beat down Shota Umino. Evil grabs the microphone and says that he's the next challenger for the IWGP heavyweight title. He spray paints the title black. And then he says, actually, you know what? I'm the real champion. So the next challenger is actually you, Moxley. And then he says he's the president of New Japan and that everything is evil. I'm taking a victory lap here, folks. If you've listened to Ring Post Radio before, if you are a longtime listener of the show, I have been calling this for months of a House of Torture versus BCC something, right? Even before Moxley won the title, I was saying this. I was saying this is probable for Forbidden Door. Maybe a BCC HOT interaction, right? I said this was probable then. Then you get Ren Narita versus Moxley. I said, okay, we're prepping for Evil. Then last week when we were previewing this show, this main event, Moxley Shota Umino, I said there's a good chance there's House of Torture involvement, at the very least, showing up after the words, because we were always building towards Evil versus Moxley. Always. I don't love it. I can't say I love it, but here's the reality of the situation. You look at New Japan right now, right? Who are your top stars that can challenge Jon Moxley? Naito already faced him. He lost. And they obviously want to do other stories. They don't want to put the title back on Naito yet. People think that might be something. But I think if you're going to put the title back on Naito and be a challenger for Dominion going into G1, I don't know. But it was always going to be Evil. Always going to be Evil. And yeah, that looks to be the challenge for Dominion. I don't quite love it as the challenge. I never quite loved it. I pitched this as the Forbidden Door thing. I think, look, if people out there are also upset about this, right? Everyone's upset about Evil being a challenger. I'll tell you this. You guys in the crowd, don't stop, in the U.S. crowd, don't stop booing Evil like he wants to be booed. This might not have happened. The guy's over in America. The guy's over in Japan. He's just not over on Twitter. That's not his fault. His matches, for the most part, aren't great. But here's the thing. Can this match be good? It depends. It will come down to, I don't think Evil's winning the title. I've never thought that Evil's winning the title. I've always thought that Evil's going to lose to Jon Moxley, right? I could maybe see Evil winning the title and then facing Naito, but I don't even think that's in the cards. I'll explain who I think is truly in the cards in a moment. But if the match, when you look at House of Torture matches, we've said it on Ring Post Radio before, the best type of House of Torture matches are the ones where a babyface has to overcome the House of Torture bullshit, and it's super hot in the crowd, and the babyface wins and beats the evil. If they do this in Japan, like I think they're going to do, if they do this in Dominion, like I think they're going to do, and that's the next challenge, then I think it can work. You have Shota Umino, who would be in Moxley's corner. You can you would have to have other people in Mox's corner. You can have maybe fly over BCC for as well. Maybe do a Danielson, Claudio, maybe Wheeler Yuta's back up. I don't know. But maybe fly them out over for a match or something for that show, for Dominion, so that they can also be present and ward off any House of Torture nonsense. And then maybe you build to a Forbidden Door match like I think they have been doing. I don't think Evil's going to win. I think Mox is going to overcome all that. BCC, Shooter, is going to have to help him. If they don't have BCC flown over any of the stuff, I don't know who else in that company would help Moxley. I don't know. Shingo? I don't know, but there's LIJ stuff there. I guess it could be LIJ to ward off HOT. I think that's certainly plausible. Because then stateside, I guess Japan side, you could do, while you're waiting for maybe Naito for a challenge for Moxley again, you can do continuation of HOT versus LIJ. In the meantime, put that in the background. But you also have already been kind of doing that. So maybe LIJ, maybe a Shingo, maybe a Naito, maybe they will help ward off if it's not BCC. But ultimately, I think Mox is retaining the titles. And I think he is going into, I don't know if he's going to the G1, but I think he's going into around the G1 as champion. I see that Scotty is in the chat. He's doing a me gimmick from a couple weeks ago. Of course, all hail Evil. Evil is the best wrestler in the company. Pay respect to our guy. You gotta pay respect to the best wrestler in the company. Of course, that's Evil. Hassan, people mad at Evil Challenge, but I thought they were asking for local challengers. Yeah, that's also true. People on Twitter are very mad about it, and I get it. People don't like Evil. People have never liked Evil. Got a lot of heat. Doesn't have quite the go home heat in the arenas, though. I don't know. Also, Moxley mentioned Bloodsport in his post-match promo. Maybe Josh Barnett will help him. So they have the Bloodsport show happening, right? Is it a GCW show? I guess it is, right? Now, is that how I look it up through here? I don't even know. Let's look this up. Try type in Bloodsport in Japan into Google. Bloodsport Bushido was the name of it. All right, let's see. When is this thing taking place? In June. Ryogoku Korakuen Hall. Can I get a day? Can I get a day? June 22nd. I feel like Dominion is way earlier. But it could set up a Josh Barnett thing. if you have Josh Barnett make a save. But he would have to be there, probably way earlier in Japan, because Dominion, I believe, is typically 6'9", but it could be a different day specifically because whatever the day falls in the week. It is, yes, still 6'9". So yeah, the Bloodsport's now for like 2-3 more weeks. When is Forbidden Door? The 30th. So Bloodsport the week before Forbidden Door. You could do a Josh Barnett thing. I could maybe see that. It'll come down to, I think, the Dominion card a little bit. I could see a BCC involvement here. Again, I think they're sort of maybe teasing a multi-man here. I pitched the idea last week of maybe a House of Torture, the Elite, Young Bucks, Evil, Narita, Jack Perry versus BCC, Moxley, Danielson, Claudio, Yuta, hopefully, maybe, Shota. I think that's a possible 5-on-5 tag. You could do it for Forbidden Door. I think you can easily do that. It would then play into the the main event is actually for this Sunday. That's a little far out. They're already teasing a Danielson, a Claudio thing, but maybe it explodes there. Maybe Claudio turns and joins the Elite or joins House of Torture. I don't know. But anyways, that's the main event. I wasn't super high on it. I went 3.5. I was low. It just wasn't fully what I wanted. We spent a lot of time talking about Evil. Let's talk about the top of the card. 6-man tag. Well, speaking of more about Evil. Speaking more about Evil. Top of the card, we had 6-man tag team action. Evil, Jack Perry and Ren Narita defeating Chaos, Rocky Romero, Tomohiro Ishii, and the DKC. In 11 minutes and 29 seconds. I thought this match was pretty good. Solid 6-man opener. Like I said, House of Torture, getting boos in the arena. If you don't like it, don't boo them. Simple as that, folks. I believe it was DKC that ate the pinfall here, of course. Was it Rocky? I think it was actually Rocky. I wrote down notes. Why am I not looking at my notes? Mash picks up really well after throwing Romero into the exposed turnbuckle. Eventually, with hot killing everyone on the outside, Evil hits Romero with the Everything is Evil to get the win. Yeah, HOT over. DKC still very green. This guy's been wrestling for quite a while. How old is this man? How many? I don't know how old he is. Let's see. He's been wrestling since 2018. He's still kind of green. He's looked better in here than he has in the past for me. He's fine. He's fine. Let's find a nice little opener. Next up, tag team match action. West Coast Wrecking Crew. Team of Jor-El, Nelson, and Royce Isaacs. Team up to defeat Fred Rosser and Tom Lawler. Cage match has them listed here as Dirty Work. I didn't know that was their tag team name. No, I kind of like it. I think I'm okay with it. And West Coast Wrecking Crew pick up that win, 11 minutes and 54 seconds. I thought this match was really good. The match starts with all the guys brawling on the outside. I really liked Fred Rosser and Tom Lawler's tag team maneuvers. They are basically normal offensive moves done on each other to hurt their opponents. For example, Rosser picking up Lawler and doing a slam onto Isaacs. Then Lawler gets up and does like the Ricky Starks stroke or a front-facing Russian leg sweep to Rosser onto Isaacs. So despite still being tag team partners, these former rivals still can't help from beating each other up. I thought that was nice. I think they continue it later in the match with another move, but it's nice seeing that their tag team maneuvers, there's a nice little thought put in here, are still based off of offensive moves to each other. I think that's a nice little sprinkle of wrestling touch in there. This match was great. Very hard hitting. Rosser and Lawler beat the shit out of the heels for quite a while. West Coast Wrecking Crew get their momentum back with various power bombs. Lawler's isolated the ring, and the finish is that they hit Lawler with a pile driver into an elbow drop. West Coast Wrecking Crew get the win. Very heavy duty, hard hitting, very intense, and I quite enjoyed that. Quite enjoyed that match. Next up, we had GOD 2.0, El Fantasma and Hikuleo versus TMDK for the strong tag titles. Got to admit here, I talked about people put on the working boots. Kind of shocked about the working boots for this match. This match, 10 minutes, nonstop action, speed, nonstop. We're moving. And I thought that was great. We didn't leave any time to just sit in it for a little bit. We just kept it moving and grooving. I thought GOD 2.0 looked good because of that. Team K can obviously thrive in that sphere. And yeah, I thought this was, again, another really good match. Probably one of the better GOD 2.0 matches I've ever seen. Not their best, but probably one of their best in that top 5 for GOD 2.0, because they've had a lot of stinkers before. And I thought Hikuleo was fine. He was able to keep up with that speed. El Phantasmo flying around the ring. TMDK flying around the ring. But of course, that finish, Thunder Kiss Splash from ELP to one of the TMTK guys, and they win back New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team titles. Team DK, little cup of coffee with the titles, and then put it back on Guerrillas of Destiny. I'm not quite sure why we did all that. I guess so that we can have this match here or something, so we can break off the 4-way into 2 different tags. I don't know. I don't quite know. But GOD back having the titles. Team DK don't. It's fine. You know, it's fine. Maybe they do a third. Maybe do a third match somewhere. I don't know. I don't know where you would do a third, but we'll find out, I guess. We will find out, I guess. We get into the women's match of the night. New Japan Strong women's title match. Stephanie Vaquer defeats Alex Windsor in 10 minutes and 53 seconds. Another really good match. Another just 10-minute banger of a match. Technical wrestling to start. Intensity starts to pick up a Vaquer's moment of control. Windsor doesn't let up, though, when she gets the control period. I think she keeps up and holds her own. I think both women look really great here. Finishes Vaquer hitting the running knees into the corner, Andrade style. Then a package pile driver for the win. Another really good match. Non-stop intensity, I thought, throughout the match. Stephanie Vaquer's looking great as always. And Alex Windsor, really good. Really, really good. She is developed into quite the really good wrestler. I think she still has more room to grow, but this is one of those matches that will continue to help her grow. And yeah, I thought she did. I think she held her own a lot more than I thought she was. In some ways, she was, equal footing to Stephanie Vaquer. And I really enjoyed seeing that. I thought that was a really nice thing for Alex Windsor. I'm going to put both things on my ears. My ear still a little bit hurt. Still, if you know the history, perforated ear still recovering. I'm feeling better, I think. I just, I want to hear again. I just want to hear fully again. Match was really good. Nonstop intensity throughout. No challenge made next. So we don't know what's happening next for Stephanie Vaquer. Or at least there's no challenge that I know about that is up down the pike. I don't believe there's another Strong show. I don't believe there's another. Oh, no. Here we go. We got New Japan Capital Collision in August, but they also announced Fantastica Mania USA in July. They announced that. I think it was was it here? No, it was after the next match. They announced Fantastica Mania USA in July. So I have to imagine we will get some sort of match there for Stephanie Vaquer. Maybe it will be just a straight up lucha match of 2 women. I'm terrified that it's Tessa. I am terrified that we're going to bring in Tessa for this, and that's how we get Tessa back in the States. Who knows? Tessa would make sense. She's the U.S. representative in Mexico, I guess. That would make sense. But it's Fantastica Mania. I would rather see someone else. But it's also Fantastica Mania, which is a New Japan CMLL joint venture. So it could be another Stardom talent. I don't know who that would be. Who knows? And also, maybe she defends it with another Stardom talent. I don't know. But I have to think that match, to me, I would put in another CMLL women's wrestler. I think that could be fun. And then maybe do a Stardom show. I don't know when you have when's another big Stardom show between now and then. Let's see. There's a show called The Conversion, June 22nd. What the hell is that? I don't even know what that is. No card, no even Wikipedia thing. Maybe late August for the 5-star finals or something in Stardom. I don't know. But that finals on the 31st and Capital Collision's on the 30th. So I don't know even if that's going to happen. I don't know. When are we going to get Stephanie Vaquer into Stardom again? I honestly don't even know. We don't have her this weekend. I don't think we're going to have her on New Blood 13. I don't know if we'll have her on the Conversion, whatever that is. And I because of Capital Collision, I don't think we're going to have the finals of 5-star. So I don't know when she's showing up in Stardom again. But, maybe she shows up at Dominion. Maybe she shows up Forbidden Door. I was thinking this, speaking of Forbidden Door, I would love to see Stephanie Vaquer versus Thunder Rosa. That could be really fun, I think. I know Thunder Rosa at one point was like sort of teasing this sort of the female member of LFI. And I was like, let's do Stephanie Vaquer versus Thunder Rosa. I saw those knees in the corner and I thought of Andrade. And I was like, let's do Vaquer versus Rosa. I think that could be pretty good. That could be your Forbidden Door match. Huh? Anybody? Forbidden Door? Hello? Phone's ringing. Let's move on to the next match. Next match. Naito Tsuji versus Finley and Kenta. You got T-shirt Naito here. Shocked. Honestly shocked of how long this match was. This match was, let's see, 14 minutes and 45 seconds. Why is it this long? I was shocked to see how long this match was. You got T-shirt Naito. Tsuji was the hard worker, I thought, here. Naito hit all of his big stuff for the win. Kenta. David Finley, I think David Finley was fine. But I thought Tsuji did a lot of the harder work for his team. And then Naito, T-shirt Naito hits his big stuff and gets the win. Fine little match. It was still good. Is whatever. We get that Fantastic Mania USA announcement, which is always nice to see. And we move right along. Oh, my ears hurting again. Moving right along to Zack Sabre Jr. versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. And look, Tanahashi, guy can't go anymore, but the guy can still do technical wrestling of Zack Sabre Jr. The guy is more than willing to just kind of lay on the mat a little bit as he gets grappled up by Zack Sabre Jr. Good technical bout in the history of this rivalry of Zack Sabre Jr. and Tanahashi. I didn't think it was the best match, of course. But it was really good. Zack Sabre Jr. and Tanahashi can still mix it up quite well. Tanahashi can still wrestle when it comes to laying on the mat and stuff. Can't quite move, but when you're grappling, you don't got to move that much. So I thought it was a good effort from Tanahashi. Sabre gets its win back from Wrestle Kingdom. And yeah, a singles win against Tanahashi, I think is nice. Come back off of the title loss to Jeff Cobb. Beats Tanahashi, gets that win back. This is my thought. If you give Sabre like another special singles match at Dominion, I don't know who versus somebody, pick somebody. Look, I pitched the idea of sending over BCC members. Do Claudio Sabre, maybe. Pick somebody on the New Japan roster to, I don't know, Yuya Uemura. I don't know. Somebody to give Zack, maybe not Claudio then, because I want Zack Sabre Jr. to get that win. Yeah, special singles here. If you give him another one there, I think we got G1 potential winner for Zack Sabre Jr. The pandemic took away a lot of interesting matches. And when it came to New Japan, one match that the pandemic took away was Zack Sabre Jr. versus Jon Moxley. G1's around the corner. And that match would have to be super down the line at Wrestle Kingdom. But I'm down for a long-ass title reign from Jon Moxley into January. I'm down with a G1 Climax winner of Zack Sabre Jr. I would be down for that match. Extremely down for that match. So we'll see. Do we get it? I don't know. Zach Tees did at Wrestle Kingdom. That's where I'm putting my train. People are putting the train on Naito. You need to elevate these upper mid carders. We can't go back to Naito. Again, same thing I said of Shooter. Push into the future, folks. Taichi, Shingo, Saber. Bump them up into the main event level. How do you bump up a guy into the main event level? Win the G1 climax. Give Zack Sabre Jr. the win. Have him face Moxley at Wrestle Kingdom. Have Zack Sabre Jr. win the title. Even if he loses, it would be a good spot. Run it back. Not even run it back. Run it for the first time. I think that's the move. I'm not going back to Naito. I'm not going back to Naito. If I'm in that room, I'm not going back to Naito for Mox. I'm having him beat Evil. I'm having the G1 climax take place. I'm having some 10-man tag at Forbidden Door with Moxley. I'm having that, like I said. I'm doing Takeshita versus Moxley. What is that sound? It's like a Range Rover just hit our wall. I'm having Moxley have that match on AEW against Takeshita. I'm in. Have him against Fletcher. We just go along the Don Callis family tree here while the G1 climax is happening. Zack Sabre Jr. wins the G1 climax. Then you have a couple more defenses in the fall into the winter. January, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Moxley. Tell me you can't get excited for that. I dare you. You would rather see Naito 2024, at this point, 2025, Naito versus Moxley? No. We need to elevate these upper mid-carders into that next sphere. New Japan needs it bad, folks. Have Zack Sabre Jr. win the G1. Or, I'll take Shingo too. I'll take Taichi as well. Next up, Jeff Cobb defends his newly won New Japan World TV title match against Lance Archer. Match begins with a Spanish fly. Voice cracked a little bit there. Still going for puberty, apparently. What the hell? This match was a little sloppy at times, but it was a lot of heavy hitting, weirdly high-flying action. This match would have been better like 5 years ago, probably. It would have been less sloppy because of it. These guys are older, Lance Archer's up there in years. How old is Lance Archer? He is 47. And he took a Spanish fly. It wasn't that great, but he took it. Jeff Cobb, 41. Two 40-year-olds. Heavy hits, clubbing blows, Spanish flies, diving all over the place, running splashes. Why not? Archer hits a blackout for 2. Cobb rolls up for 2. Lance Archer goes up to do the walk in the top rope. He does moonsault off of that typically. Jeff Cobb pulls Archer down, hits him with the Tour of the Islands, and picks up the win. Like I said, still a little sloppy. Ultimately, still very good. One thing about perforated eardrums they don't really talk about too much is that it's harder, because your ears are muffled now, it's harder to hear yourself talk, even with headphones. And I can't even put the headphone in my right ear because it hurts my ear. It's harder to talk sometimes. It's hard to do a podcast for this long. And I trip over my words a lot typically, and I'm talking quickly. But I'm tripping over my words, I think, way more because I don't really hear myself. I don't hear myself talk, and that's a weird feeling to have. A very weird feeling, folks. Next up, never open weight title match, Shingo Takagi versus Yuya Uemura, 21 minutes flat. Yeah, it's a long match. This was a really long match. Way too long. Shingo won with a lariat, quick tight cover. I was not really fully paying attention to this match. And again, it's part of that bias. Yuya Uemura has great fundamentals. Everyone loves to talk about how great Yuya Uemura's fundamentals are, right? But there's nothing else there for me to get excited and invest in Yuya Uemura. There's nothing else that I really love. In commentary, they started making those Ricky Steamboat comparisons. And I was like, all right, fundamentals, a guy with great technical wrestling ability. There's something there. But basic moves, great. He's like an advanced young lion. I want to see something there. I want to see that fire, that storm from Yuya Uemura. And I just don't see it. He was wrestling Shingo here, folks. 20-minute match here. And I thought the match was good, Not great. It's Shingo we're talking about. Shingo Takagi, a guy who's on the Observer Ballot Hall of Fame. Probably getting in at some point. And I thought Yuya Uemura brought the match down. The guy's got great fundamentals, great character work, excitement, aura, something. Give me something more. That's what I want from Yuya Uemura. Give me something more. There's nothing there beyond the arm drags. Give me something more. Give me something. I mean, the guy was Joe Hendry's second in TNA. They had this guy doesn't have anything else, so we put him with Joe Hendry, a charismatic guy. Can't wrestle. I didn't say that. They didn't even know really what to do with Yuya Uemura, right? I mean, let's do something with this guy. Give me some charisma, and I don't think this guy has any. I think that's the sad truth. I don't think Yuya Uemura has that much charisma. He's got great skills. Everyone loves talking about it. Give me some charisma. Give me something to be invested in. I don't know. I just want more. Eddie Kingston versus Gabe Kidd next. I thought this was match of the show easily. I mean, Cage Match so far disagrees. Cage Match has the main event at 8.54 out of 12 votes. Again, I'm the low man on that totem pole. But they have this semi-main, 8 votes, 6.78, below Sabre and Tanahashi. That's where we're at. We have like a specifically low voting thing. We got 5, we got 6, a lot of 7s and a couple 8s. I thought this was good heat, good high intensity, a good nonstop brawl between the two. This is violent. This is bloody. Exactly what it needed to be. Of course, this was for the New Japan Strong Openweight title. This was a no-rope last man standing match. And of course, you get the classic last man standing tropes. Counted for 10 a billion times. But I thought this match was great. I thought both of these guys brought it. Gabe Kidd wins the title off of Eddie Kingston in a extremely nasty way. Does a suplex off the apron through a table, but he doesn't calculate it properly enough where Eddie Kingston's basically his legs and his hips smash straight into the guardrail as they go through that table. Eddie Kingston down for the entire time. Now he's a great seller, right? Eddie Kingston, a fantastic seller. He sells through the angle after the match. But that's a bad bump. That's a bump that's put wrestlers out forever. It's a nasty ass bump. I pray to God Eddie Kingston's okay. Seemingly was okay for the angle afterwards. But I thought this match was really good. Very bloody, very hard hitting, very violent, which is what it needed to be. I think Gabe Kidd came off looking good. I think Gabe Kidd, he's a guy that's showing me good wrestling ability, charisma, character work. Great, really good wrestling ability when it comes to this violent stuff. He's showing me something. I'm liking Gabe Kidd. And I also know a lot of people don't really like Gabe Kidd. I'm enjoying his work. Emphasis on his work, I guess. And people loved his promo interview on that morning news show. People loved that stuff, trending all over Twitter. Oh, it's fine. It was morning news. Couldn't curse. Missing a little bit of something of that Gabe Kidd flair, but still pretty good. Still very good. I thought this match was a match of the night for me. But if you like the main event more, I understand. I understand why. I wonder if, let me see if I can see any of the lower score stuff. If people didn't like this one because of the finish. I don't really see anything. It was unsafe one that fucked up Eddie. Yeah, we got a 5-star rating person here on Cage Match where someone says it possibly fucked up Eddie. And I think they probably took some points away because of that. I don't know. I thought it was really good. If Eddie Kingston's okay, great. If Eddie's not, that sucks, and that's really bad on Gabe Kidd. But it's wrestling, shit happens. I'm not going to blame Gabe Kidd for that. Eddie agreed to the spot. He did the spot. it just turned out to be fucking bad. It turned out to look like it hurt so much. Like it hurt so incredibly much. God damn. New Japan Strong Resurgence. That's the show. That's New Japan Strong Resurgence. But that's not it for Ring Post Radio. We got plenty of more to get to. Let's talk about BOSJ Night 1 as well. But I'm going to break up New Japan Talk a little bit. Let's preview Stardom Flashing Champions. Now, long time listener to the show, I'm not the Stardom guy. Not saying I don't like Stardom, but Scotty is obviously the Stardom guy. So I will do my best here for Stardom Flashing Champions, which is a show happening this Saturday in Yokohama Budokan in Yokohama, Japan. And are we going to get more matches for the show? We got 4 announced, to my knowledge, on Wikipedia. I have to see if there are more announced on Twitter. But for the most part, things get up there on Wikipedia rather quickly. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. 4 matches. Only 4 matches. That's, it ain't great. That ain't a great amount of matches. I'll give you that much. Matches themselves are very interesting. This is what we got so far. Mayu Iwatani and Hanan, great team, versus Arisuka Nakajima and Tsukasi Fujimoto. These are 2 people that wrestle on the Joshi circuit. I believe Fujimoto. God, if you're telling me I'm not the Stardom guy, you can't ask me about Ice Ribbon. But Fujimoto apparently looks for an Ice Ribbon. Arisa Nakajima. Is she an actress wrestler? Let's see. I don't really see what she's doing. She's doing Seedling, it looks like. That's what Wikipedia is telling me. Seedling. So we got Ice Ribbon and Seedling teaming up here to take on Mayu Iwatani Hanan. Nice little stuff here, but I mean, Mayu and Hanan are getting the win. Easy. 3 title matches here. High-speed title match. Saya Kamatani versus Saya Ida. This is the Ryan Knightsey special if I've ever seen one. Saya Kamatani hasn't been too great since her return, but she has been great in the past. I've enjoyed her quite immensely. Saya Ida, the Gorilla Girl himself. I love it. I love me some Saya Ida. I'm throwing my jacket into the grafters for Saya Ida. I'm great. I greatly enjoy Saya Ida. More than the average person, I'll say. And her versus Saya Kamatani, I'm interested. Quite interested indeed for the high-speed title. I don't expect Saya Ida to get the win. She never does in these big-time matches. She's a lower mid-carder at best. So Saya Kamatani, easy first defense for the high-speed title. I believe it's her first defense for the high-speed title. Let's look to verify that, but pretty sure unless she defended it on some sort of Stardom show that has already taken place. I'll look that up momentarily. Oh God, that like coughing. Gross. Wonder of Stardom title match here. Sayori Anou versus Ami Sourei. Fine. I don't have any real takeoff of this. Okay, Sayori Anou, Ami Sourei. Fine. I'm not a big Ami Sourei person. Not really big on her right now. I'm not really a big Sayori Anou. Like that new group of people, it was like Mirai, Sayori Anou, and Ami Sourei just all sort of blended in my brain as like similar people for some reason. And it's hard to separate them in my brain. But now Mirai is golden, so I don't have to think about that anymore. And now Sayori Anou and Ami Sourei, that's fine. I don't know any vibes off of Into It. I don't necessarily think it's going to be, anything hugely special of a match. I mean, this show doesn't look too great, in my opinion. We got so many people on this show poster, but only 4 matches announced. And I'm looking over on Twitter at Scotty and other Joshi people, and I don't see any other matches announced for this. People know the matches. I would love to know what they are. But Sayori Anou, Ami Sourei. Ami Sourei still I feel like she's very new still. in wrestling. She's 27-year-old. She's been wrestling since 2020, so she's still very new. She's been Stardom since 2022. And now she's facing Sayori Anu for the title. Fine. And then, out of nowhere, AEW TBS title. Again, you heard that right. AEW title match. Stardom. Willow Nightingale versus Tam Nakano. What? When? Huh? Why? So, not only are we getting the Stardom wrestlers in AEW now, we are sending AEW talent to Japan. We're sending Willow, I should say, to Japan to defend an AEW title in Stardom. Is this, I don't know my Stardom history. If you want more Stardom history, you got to listen to Stardom Road, like Count Out Wrestling Podcast Network. But is this the first U.S. title defended in Stardom? Ooh, Toni Storm had a UK title for a US company. I believe she defended that in Stardom. I can look that up. But even then, that's UK. That, it's not the first international title, if that is the case. Let's see. NXT UK Women's Championship. Let's see. No, never defended that title in Stardom. She definitely did a tour in Stardom with that title. But she's never defended that title. Was there Progress had title matches? No, not even Progress. I don't know. WXW. Toni Storm held that. Those are the only person I can think of. So maybe this is the first international title. I don't know. I think at the very least, it's probably the first U.S. title. Willow Nightingale making history here, if that is the case. Versus Tam Nakano. So Tam Nakano, arguably one of the bigger stars after the Marigold excursions. Purging? Not purging is not right either. Marigold exit. One of the bigger stars here. Losing. Undoubtedly to Willow Nightingale. Fully losing. Tony Khan, CW. Of course she's losing. Of course Willow's getting that dub. I mean, the W stands for Willow. But Tam Nakano here in a match against Willow Nightingale. Big time match. If I'm Stardom, I understand. You want to showcase your big star to American audiences that are probably going to come in and watch this show and figure out how to watch this show. I understand that much. But all right, we're beating Tam Nakano right off the bat. There could have been other people, but we'll take Tam Nakano. What does that mean? I don't know. Maybe it means something for Willow at Forbidden Door. She's not doing anything. It's going to be Mina versus Tony for sure at Forbidden Door. Maybe you get something here. A lot of people are probably not enjoying, a lot of Stardom people are probably not enjoying this AEW involvement. I know the New Japan people aren't. I think it's good. I think this stuff is good. Until AEW starts taking all your talent, maybe, then it stops being good. But for right now, I'm fine with it. It's just a title defense. You're going to expose Tam Nakano to more people, and that's what you want. You want a bigger star at Tam. I don't know if I would have done Tam. I would have done maybe like a Natsupoi or something like that. Maybe Amina, but you're building up to a title match at Forbidden Door. So I would have maybe done something like Tekla would have been fun. I'm always down for Tekla. Asume maybe as well, but you're already kind of doing stuff with Asume, but I don't know. I think the AEW involvement in Stardom is fine. It's finally happening. You can't poo-poo it because, if you're going to have Stardom talent in AEW, in American wrestling TV, you got to have AEW talent in Stardom. You can't have it one direction. I don't see Niall anywhere. I don't see Harry anywhere. You cannot have it one direction. Will there be more AEW talent? Maybe. I don't know. We got 4 matches on this goddamn card. Give me some more matches. What are we doing? It's Sunday. The show's in 7 days. What are we doing? What are we doing? All right. What are we doing? I'll tell you this much. I know what I'm doing. We are going to discuss New Japan Strong. No, I already did that. Best of the Super Juniors Night 1. That is what we are going to be doing. This, of course, happened also on Saturday morning, super early in my time zone. You know, I was thinking, it's like there's so many podcasts, not just like wrestling podcasts, but like comedy, true crime, etc. So many podcasts out there that like it just feels unending, right? In terms of the podcast quality. And we're the best one. Ring Post Radio is the best podcast, followed by split number 2 of Stardom Road, Your Dose of Death, and Ichiban Sweetcast. Split number 2 there. All tied. And then number 5, everybody else. But like there's so many podcasts and they're so American central or even English speaking central that I was just like thinking, like, are there like Japanese citizens, residents doing wrestling podcasts? You know, talking about wrestling in Japanese. Do those people just watch Piro and Joshi? Or do they also discuss what's happening in WWE week to week? Is there a version of Fightful in Japan? I don't know. Maybe. It just feels like the wrestling media landscape is so US based, UK, maybe English based. You have to think that, like, I don't know, people in other countries, non-English speakers have podcasts probably. I have to think. I just don't know if they exist. I don't know how to find them on my machine. Don't know how to find them at all. Probably exist. I would love to know their thoughts on Best of Super Juniors Night 1. I'll give you my thoughts real quickly. I didn't really like this show too much. It was all right near the end. Really good near the end even. But I thought the first very long portion of it was not too good, not too impressive. I thought this was a downer of a day one for sure. So let's walk through it here for you all. Starting off night 1, Francisco Akira versus Dragon Dia. Dragon Dia, of course, coming in as the replacement of Ryusuke Taguchi. He is from Dragon Gate. He looked good in this match. The Dragon Gate style was a nice change of pace, literally and figuratively, to the New Japan style. But look, there's not much to go off of 5 minutes of solid work. Solid work, but 5 minutes, I can't read anything from this. You got to give me some more stuff for Dragon Dia, or at least longer time to see something like this. And I thought Francisco Akira also was good here, but, you know, fine little opener. 2.5 stars. I can't read anything off of these guys. Next up, Hayata versus Bushi. Hayata gets the win. Should say Francisco Akira got the win over Dragon Dia. A lot of these day one tour stuff in Japan give the outsiders wins. Dragon Dia didn't get the win, which I thought was very interesting. I think he is the only outsider that didn't pick up a win. Yeah, Hayata, Ninja Mac, Blake Christian. I don't know. I'm not counting Kushida, but TNA signed Kushida. Dragon Dia was the only guy that didn't pick up a win. And, you know, he's a replacement for Taguchi, so I kind of get it. And Francisco Akira, you know, in our preview, I talked about, you know, he could be a contender to win Block B. So I could see him getting the early win. You know, commentary all show, they talked about how winners tend to be picking up wins on their first night. I think Francisco Akira is a possible guy to be a block winner. We talked about maybe facing TJP in the semis. So getting the win here is fine. Hayata Bushi, not as good as the opener. I don't know. 2024 Bushi versus a Hayata, who is a guy that is more than willing to dog it in a match if he's bored about the match. Short, uninteresting. Noah Champ gets the first win. Didn't even bring the title, I think. 7 minutes. Who cares? Ninja Mac gets the win over Robbie Eagles. Where has Robbie Eagles been? I know he's been in Australia and wrestling, but why has he not been in New Japan? What is up with that? Anyways, another short match. We're showcasing Ninja Mac. You don't get a full idea. I thought Ninja Mac had good ideas for moves, but he didn't quite nail everything. It was a little sloppy at times. I think that you could chalk it up to nerves. This is the biggest spot in Ninja Mac's career for sure. I mean, this guy during the pandemic popped up during the pandemic at WrestleMania weekend, then became like kind of a GCW regular who was coming out of Texas here, and then popped up out of nowhere in Noah, became a pretty decent junior in Noah, pretty big guy star in Noah in the junior division, held the GHC hardcore title even. He beat off of, Masato Tanaka of all people. So they're pushing the guy in Noah, and obviously they want to expose him to a larger audience. They bring him over to New Japan. Biggest spot of Ninja Mac's career in this tour. I fully understand if he's not able to nail all of his moves that he typically does because of nerves. I think that's totally plausible. I'm in that sense. I'm more interested to see what Ninja Mac looks like late tour. But I thought this was okay enough introduction. 2.5. Kosei Fujita versus Yoshinobu Kanemaru. You got Fujita out here. New gear, new look. Little bit of a swag walk out to the ring. He's hip. He's cool. He's got that pirate earring because he's a punk. I thought to myself watching this, now that Fujita is definitely not a young lion anymore, confirmed definitely not anymore, and Eagles is back in the company. Eagles, Fujita, junior tag champions. The War Dogs need somebody. Let's do Eagles and Fujita. That is something I would be looking forward to in these blocks. Excuse me. Fujita's in block A, same block as Clark Connors. Excuse me, I'm burping. Gross. Fujita's in block A with Clark Connors. Eagles block B with Drilla Maloney. I would watch out for those two matches. If they pick up some wins, Eagles and Fujita pick up wins over Connors and Drilla Maloney, I'm watching those two matches. That could be a junior tag title situation. Certainly could be. Team DK, Robbie Eagles need something. Let's push Fujita a little bit more. Strap him up. Or at least give him a tag title match, I think it's plausible. The match itself, Fujita versus Kanemaru, solid match again. He's wrestling good hand Kanemaru here. Wasn't the most exciting Fujita match I have ever seen. But since they're no longer establishing him as a young lion, he's got to step up a little bit. Next match is Despy, so I'm very excited to see Fujita versus Despy. I think that could really give us a lot more than a Kanemaru match to see where Fujita could be. You can get that more speed out of Fujita, I believe, in a Despy match. So yeah, I'm excited to see where this one is going to shape up. So I'm more excited about Despy. This one was fine. It was more than fine. 2 3/4, but it was all right. Next up, Show versus Drilla Maloney. I did not like this match at all. Not at all, folks. If you've seen a Bullet Club member versus Bullet Club member match, you've seen them all. Brawled on the outside. They looked to hurt each other, but then faked out and then actually try to trip each other up and clean fight and all this other stuff. They brawl on the outside. That brawl on the outside looked weak as hell. Table shots looked awful. Both Show and Drilla, neither person was interested in selling that fully. And then the finish is low blow central of Gato coming out, low blowing Show, Yujiro low blowing Drilla. I thought Gato coming out and low blowing was interesting. I was like, oh, something's happening here. And then Yujiro came out and low blow Drilla. And I was like, oh, okay. I lost interest yet again. Did not like this match. But I'll tell you what, I like this match even a slight bit more. The next match, Clark Connors versus Blake Christian. Clark Connors fine. I like him as a wrestler, but just nothing happening interestingly in this match for me. Whatever. And I don't blame him because, again, day one, New Japan, Noah, All Japan, all these companies like to showcase the outside talent, allow them to pick up a win first. Like, I expect Dragon Dia to pick up that win next match against whoever he's facing. We'll pull that up. Is New Japan 1972 still down? Probably still down. So we'll look up New Japan cage match. So look that up. Dragon Dia, who's facing next. But Blake Christian. Whoa, this is interesting. This is an interesting development. Ninja Mac. Don't feel pressure. Fan of the show, subscribe. All right, interesting. If this is the true Ninja Mac, thank you for subscribing. Thanks for leaving a comment. And I'd love to know more. Come on to the show. Why not? Yeah. Come on to Ring Post Radio. When we get Scotty back on, we'll talk about it. Don't feel pressure, fan of the show. That's good to hear. I wouldn't be shocked if you felt pressure because, like I said, like I stated, this is probably the biggest spot of your career, Ninja Mac. But yeah, I think you did a good job. I liked you. I liked you when you showed up in the pandemic. And I want to see more. I'm interested to see where you go. Who even is Ninja Mac? I'm looking up Dragon Dia. Let's look up who's Ninja Mac have next. Let's just come back every week and we'll get updates from Ninja Mac all the time. Let's see. Best Super Juniors Night 2. Ninja Mac, you're facing Francisco Akira. Ooh, good luck, buddy. And Dragon Dia, Taiji Shimori. That could be good. Well, I don't know. That could be good 10 years ago. Taiji Shimori has slowed down significantly. He does not have that speed that he once did have. Like 10 years ago, Ishimori would have been really nice against a current Dragon Dia, but Ishimori slowed down so much. So I don't know. That's the kind of match that I look at modern day Kenta, where it's man, I see a match and oh, that could be really good. And I remember Kenta's slowed down significantly. That it's man, if this match happened a couple of years ago, even 10 years ago, this would have been really good. Taiji Ishimori, Dragon Dia out. He's super involved right now, but I don't know. I'm unsure. That's not the match that I really want from Dragon Dia. But also, can he pick up a win there? Taiji Ishimori, big star. That would be an upset win for Dragon Dia. Unless he doesn't get any wins. I don't know. It's interesting. Anyways, let's move on. Blake Christian, Carl Connors. I really didn't like this match. And there's a specific reason why, right? Well, number one is the GCW gimmick. I'm not a big fan of his GCW gimmick. But he comes out and he wants the crowd to boo him from the jump. He's like, boo, boo me. He's telling the crowd to stop clapping him and booing him. It's fine, a little heel work. But the thing about his gimmick is that his move set hasn't really changed too much. If anything, he's just kind of added heel mannerisms throughout his stuff. They did a thing where Clark at the beginning was like, "Oh, too sweet," and then he shoots some and then whatever, and then Blake Christian's like, "Oh, I got something too," and then pulls out a gun and then flips him the bird. That was a nice little spot. I'll get to that because actually it is a good spot there. But his moveset hasn't really changed. And my opinion on what this match could have been better for Blake Christian, if it could have worked better, was if Blake Christian came out like the Ring of Honor face that he is, like the pre-GCW heel face that he was, came out healed, did his wrestling, that he did everything the match normally, maybe less heel mannerisms, of course, and wrestled the match normally, got the crowd cheering for him, and then did the exact same finish, and then did the rest of the tour as a heel, I think that could have been more interesting. Granted, town to town is one thing, but I think that could have been a more interesting way to do that and maybe a more natural way to get the crowd to boo for you, other than coming out and telling the crowd to boo for you. Come on, buddy. It's wrestling. Do it in the ring. You don't come out there and tell the crowd to boo for you. I mean, I guess free of promos, people do that all the time. But, you dog on the town. You don't say, boo me, please. That's kind of what he was doing. I didn't quite like it. If he did the exact same finish, which was he hit I don't know what it was, like a weird cartwheel I don't know, burning hammer or something. Then he goes into a stomp, and then he pulls out a weapon, some sort of like fist thing, punches Clark Connors in the face, knocks him down, gets the win. Which, by the way, I did like that. Tease at the beginning of the match. Oh, I got something in my pants too. It's a gun. Well, guess what? He had another thing in his pants. Well, he has a couple things in his pants, maybe 3, 4, 5. He pulls out another thing and knocks out. That was a nice little foreshadowing from the opening to the end. But again, I think I would have enjoyed it more. And I think the match would have been better if you weren't like acting a heel the whole time and asking the crowd to boo for you. If you just played it straight and then did the heel stuff and then went heel for the tour. I think that could have been better in a more natural way than what to me felt forced. But he can still wrestle. That's the other problem. Guy can still wrestle. I mean, he might need new boots. Hey. Ishimori versus Doki. I love me Doki. Talked about Ishimori before. The guy slowed down significantly. I thought he looked good here, though. And I love Doki. At this point in the show, this point in the card, I wanted more high-speed action. I'm not going to get it out of Taiji Ishimori. That's the thing. But it wasn't bad. I thought Ishimori looked good. This match was limb work, shoulder v shoulder. And it came down to Ishimori getting that win over Doki, 10 minutes and 52 seconds. I thought it was laid out well and structured properly to just, shoulder v shoulder. Taiji Ishimori gets that win. Solid, good match. 3 stars, totally good. Next up, Kevin Knight defeats TJP in 15 minutes and 2 seconds. This match ruled. Kevin Knight looked great against TJP, captain of the Black Parade. Oh, sorry, United Empire. Slow start, but very good wrestling that picked up. That wasn't just speed, but also technical ability. Became really, really good. There's a moment here where Kevin Knight goes for a spike DDT that TJP counters and almost counter holding him and then snaps him in to a suplex. Great execution, great hold, great snapping. TJP was great here. Putting him into the Tree of Woe and then doing the face washing that way, I thought was a nice change of pace here. And we get a big win for Kevin Knight. He does the new submission that he's learned from Kushida, the double wrist lock. Great submission. He looked really good here. TJP was a great opponent for Kevin Knight here. And also, I got to say this. With the amount of Japanese speaking that Kevin Knight was doing, this look, this aura, this confidence that he's given, he's put on some more muscle, which is great for him. And then the initial lack of Kushida in this tournament, I'm watching this and I'm thinking to myself, they are seeing something and pushing Kevin Knight. I don't know if he's going to win the block, but after this, I don't know if Ninja Mac's still watching, but I know this guy's a gambler. I'm putting the chips down. I'm going in on Kevin Knight. I think he's got a good shot. I think TJP also has a good shot to win the whole block as well. He's got a story there. But Kevin Knight picking up a win over just minted new leader of the United Empire. Doesn't look great for TJP, but I thought he looked great in this match and made Kevin Knight look like a freaking star, like Kevin Knight is becoming. I think if he can get to the finals, that would be great. I don't know who he can face in the finals. Maybe a Despy. Well, I love a Teton. Oh man. Ooh, baby. A Teton Kevin Knight final? That would be pretty nice. That'd be very nice. I'll greatly enjoy that. But yeah, I think the sheer amount of Japanese speaking, his new look and feel, and the initial lack of Kushida, I think they are separating him from a tag team with Kushida, and they're pushing him as a singles guy. How far that goes remains to be seen. Kushida versus Hiromu. Speed, action, speed, intensity. I love it. Hiromu dropped Kushida on his face. Who cares? Kushida converted a time bomb into an attempted double wrist lock, then rolled into the double wrist lock. Then he started bending Hiromu's wrist into that wrist lock some more. Great finishing sequence. These guys, it's an all-time 2010s rivalry between Kushida and Hiromu in New Japan. And this match is still great. Kushida, still certified great. You know, he had a lot of WWE rust coming out of NXT. Don't forget that he was in NXT for a bit. But he had a lot of WWE rust coming out of that. And I think, granted, again, against Hiromu, an all-time rival of his, great match. Really, really great match. Feels like Kushida belongs into this tournament. And he's a replacement. He belongs. He showcased it. Granted, again, Hiromu, Kushida. Hiromu looked great as well here. But Kushida, I thought, really stepped up. Really wanted to make sure to showcase what he can do. And I'm fascinated to see what he can do moving forward. Because, again, Kushida's one thing. But how are you going to look against, I don't know, Show? You know? How are you going to look against a Ninja Mac? How are you going to look against Dragon Dial? Ooh, that's actually interesting. How are you going to look against these other guys? Right? It's one thing to be up against an all-time rival. You know, it's one thing for Tanahashi to wrestle Zack Sabre Jr., but it's another thing for Tanahashi in 2024 to wrestle a lot more people on the roster. I want to see more. I'm not, you know, I love Kushida, still great, but I want to see more of this tour before I really be like certified fresh. Main event, Titan El Desperado. More speed, more action. Lucha in Japan always rules. Titan has been killing it in New Japan. Good rematch of the last year's semifinals. Obviously missing those stakes of it being the semifinals of the BOSJ last year. But the match was still very great. Still very good. I want more Titan. These guys are great wrestlers. Despy's looking really good. Titan's great. Crowd's still very invested in Titan. Really good stuff. 3.5 stars. I loved it. I loved Kushida and Hiromu more. 3.75. But main event was still great. These last three matches, Night, TJP, Hiromu, Kushida, Titan, El Despy, all showcase me what I like to see in Best of the Super Juniors. Speed and action. High flying. Wrestling technical ability. Bring more of that. Bring more of it. That is what I want to see. If you want more Best of Super Juniors coverage, we talked a lot about Best of Super Juniors coming up, obviously, in our various reviews of the shows. But if you want more historic coverage of the Best of Super Juniors, I have a new series that I wrapped up for this year. I'm going to continue it next year. Best of the BOSJ on patreon.com/countoutpod. There you can go and listen to 4 episodes talking about 4 different finals of the Best of the Super Juniors. We got, pull up the wrong thing. I don't remember the years off the top of my head, but we have got on the Patreon right now, all of this on the $5 tier, by the way, along with so much great audio that you can listen to as well. I'll get to one of those that came out for free today. Best of the BOSJ, we covered 1994 final, the first Best of the Super Juniors, not the top of the Super Juniors, the first Best of the Super Juniors between Liger and Dolphin Man. I like Dolphin Man. His name's not Dolphin Man, but I like to say it's Dolphin Man. You had 2001, 2009, and 2019. We talked about all 4 of those finals. Best of the BOSJ, $5 Patreon tier. Patreon.com/countoutpod. There are a lot of other great shows on there, like The Ballot, which, if you are a subscriber, not only to the Patreon, you would have heard it already. You would have heard it last month, this episode. But if you're a subscriber on the Ring Post Radio podcast feed or the Count Out Podcast Network feed, wherever you get your podcast, we released a free episode of The Ballot that you would have listened to if you were subscribed last month. But we released a free episode. It was my episode with Scotty. He's not here on Ring Post Radio today, but you can hear that episode right now for free on any of your podcasting apps of The Ballot, talking about the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame candidacy and the likelihood for Cody Rhodes. So again, That free episode of the ballot has been unlocked for free for you on wherever podcasting app you so choose. Ring Post Radio. Go check it out right now. And if you want more, again, more episodes of the ballot are out as well. We have Hall of Fame candidacy cases for Zack Sabre Jr., the Usos, and Kento Miyahara. We got more coming up, obviously. Zack Sabre Jr. was with Curtis from Ichiban Sweetcast. Usos with Suit Williams from The Observer and Voices of Wrestling. And Kento Miyahara with Gerard DiTrolio from the Emerald Flow Show. And again, that free episode out now. If you want to hear all that and more, patreon.com/countoutpod, $5 tier, folks. Subscribe now. All right. We talked about Best of Super Juniors. We talked about Strong Resurgence. We talked about whatever there was for Stardom Fashion Champions. But I got some news. We're not done, folks. Because many moons ago, in January, in fact, Scotty and I placed a bet. It's the yearly bet of the Royal Rumble bet. Royal Rumble predictions bet. Who can make the most correct predictions? And like almost every year, I think every year, I've lost. And the loser, what happens to that loser? Well, the loser comes across some hard times. And those hard times take the form all the time of the NWA hard times. That's right, folks. The NWA hard times. And I was set to watch that show live on YouTube in front of you all. Except NWA doesn't do pay-per-views anymore. They just do TV tapings for the CW app. And whereas that show took place in March 2nd, they didn't start releasing the stuff till April and May. But guess what? I watched it all. I went to the CW app for free, watched all of this stuff for free, with some ads, of course, but for free. I watched all 5 episodes of what was NWA Hard Times. And we're going to talk about it. The only show that could talk about New Japan, Stardom, and they're going to talk about the NWA. Name me another show that does all that still. That does it right now. Well, the only other show that's recording right now is old boy Ring Post Radio. And Sky's not here. Let the chaos play, folks. Sky's not here. He can't stop me. I'm talking about the NWA Hard Times. He actually probably prefers that he's not here. So let's talk about it. Hard Times, episode 1. Hard Times aren't pretty. We got a promo package to start. Pretty empowered. They're the stable. Kenzie Page, Kylie Page, and somebody else. Who's that third person? No, not that person. Ella Envy. They're setting up the main event of episode 1, which is an NWA World Women's Tag Title 2 out of 3 Falls match in the main event. Good promo here. Commentary for the rest of the show is Joe Galley and Danny Deals. This is a new NWA season premiere. They run down the card for the episode. Again, this is the NWA. What they do is they taped everything in Dothan, Alabama, in March, and then released it. This was a taping, basically. And at the time, we didn't have like any of this card. This card unveiled live, basically, on this taping. And I don't know if anyone else has reviewed it. I think there was one person on Cage Match that has reviewed these shows. Match number 1, Colby Carino versus Mr. NWA, Joe Alonzo, for the NWA World Junior Heavyweight title. During this match, Danny Deals on commentary discussed some corrupted refs that have plagued this rivalry before, but he's the heel, so who cares? Keep saying Alonzo is an uncrowned champion for some reason. Carino has opening control until wiping out a dive to the outside, to the guardrail outside. Alonso, good counter from superplex into a dropping Corino's neck on the ropes. Not like the Ospreay dropping brainbuster gimmick, Sami Zayn brainbuster gimmick, but he just like spins him over and like goes to the ring apron and drops him, like chokes him on the necks. Corino hits a standing twist senton on the camera stand onto Alonso on the outside. We get a ref bump into a low blow. Alonso hits the stroke finisher, that front-facing Russian leg sweep that I talked about earlier. And you get Joe Alonso getting the win. Solid work, just slow. I thought it was like a match on Raw, which for the NWA is pretty good. 3 stars. Match number 2, La Rosa Negra, who is returning from last match in April 2023. This is like practically a year later, where she got into a car accident where she broke her hip. La Rosa Negra, she has returned. She's teaming up with Ruthie J to take on Tiffany Nieves and Reika Tahaka. AEW Dark Legend, Reika Tahaka. Commentary puts over the idea that these are unusual teams, but with the tag belts, NWA put some tag teams together to potentially win, figure stuff out, and eventually challenge for the titles. I like that bit of lore and story here. I thought it was a good bit of story. You know, setting up this idea of like, look, we have these things. We have a bunch of individual women's wrestlers. Let's put these teams together to see if we got something here. And I'll tell you this much, Reika Tahaka and Tiffany Nieves don't have something here. A lot of friction, a lot of jaw-jacking the entire match. The finish is basically Ruthie Lee hits a ugly, she's basically too high, almost flipped over Reika Tahaka, a ugly diving meteora to Reika Tahaka, followed up with La Rosa Negra hitting a flog splash across the ring to pick up the win. Okay match with a good little story here, but it just didn't play completely into the finish. It wasn't a friction, jaw-jacking thing that played into the finish. It was just, they just ultimately lost. But I thought the faces looked good for working together. 2.5 star match. Nice to see La Rosa Negra back in the ring after a car accident where she broke her hip. Crazy shit. Match number 3, spectacular Spencer Slade, who basically comes out in an amateur wrestling gimmick, versus Magic Jake Dumas. Slade is wearing amateur wrestling headgear, and I really like this detail from commentary. Danny Deals questions whether or not you can hide weapons or powder in there in the wrestling headgear that Spencer Slade is saying. This is a very basic face-heel match with Dumas as the face and Slade as the heel. I almost thought it would be different. I thought Dumas was a heel, but I guess something changed at some point. I am dropping in. Joe Cali calls a stunner a TKO at some point. Lots of heel manager shenanigans to give Slade the win. I believe Spencer Slade's manager was Ronaldo Freeman, I want to say. And then he eventually gave Slade the win off of an avalanche air raid crash. 2 3/4 stars. I thought this was pretty good. Slade, there's something there of Slade, I think. There's something there. It's just not fully present yet. We'll see. I don't know if NWA is the place for him to develop that, though, but it is what it is. Main event, pretty empowered. Kylie Page, Ella Envy versus the Killer Bees, Charity King, and Danny B. Killer Bees won these titles off of Pretty Empowered recently, and now they're doing a match again for the women's tag team titles. And 2 out of 3 falls match happens. The first fall happens immediately in like 10 seconds with Danny B schoolgirling Ella Envy with a roll-up. Second fall happens, Paige and Envy with double team action. Envy hits a fall-away slam. Paige gets the partner, Danny B, out of there. Charity King out of there. Then runs back to the corner B with a diving drop kick for the win. Third fall, Envy is busy yapping up with the referee. Charity King hits a fall-away slam called the King's Kiss to win and retain the titles. Again, very fine match. Well worked for the level of talent for this card. And what I do really enjoy watching one episode of NWA CW television, there are stories happening throughout all of these matches, in the matches as well. These aren't just completely dry. There's stuff happening. I know people don't like the NWA, but I tell you this wasn't bad. There is stuff happening in these matches. And we'll evolve that conversation as the show goes on. Hard Times, episode 2, Art of the Heel. We get an opening promo between Kratos and Odison versus Blunt Force Trauma, hyping up their match. They have a tag title match later in the show. Blunt Force Trauma being Carnage and Damage, the former Rodney Mack and Marche Rocket, and JR Kratos, of course, and Odison on the other side. Aaron Stevens is the speaking role, the manager for Blunt Force Trauma. He says, "Is it worth trying to beat the most dominant team in Blunt Force Trauma?" And also, he has a rapping gimmick now. He's still like dressed like very flowery, but now he's got a rapping gimmick for some reason. Oh, match number 1: the Fixers, Wrecking Ball Legursky and Jay Bradley versus Tim Storm and mystery opponent, which ended up being JAC. Now, this is a mystery opponent. This is for the NWA USA Tag Team Title Tournament that's happening. This was a first round match. Tim Storm had to bring in a new partner for this. And they explained that it's basically, they didn't really fully explain it, but they eventually allude to the idea that Jax Dane was going to be Tim Storm's partner. But Jax Dane apparently got an injury, couldn't compete. And it's disappointing because they really set up this idea that, Jax Dane and Tim Storm, he was trying to convince Tim Storm to go back for some titles, and they were going to go for the tag titles here. And there was a story that probably would have lasted all tournament, maybe even be the winners. Jax Dane gets injured, he's out. They replace him with JAC, and they also lose. Tim Storm and JAC pick up the lack of dub, pick up the L, and the Fixers win. Fixers, I should also say, last time I watched the NWA, they were a babyface comedy duo. Fully dropped the comedy act. They're just heels. And I think because of the lack of story, lack of involvement of the Jax Dane, Tim Storm stuff, the JAC, a guy no one knows about, and the Fixers no longer be a comedy act, this match wasn't that great. The bulk of the match was Wrecking Ball Legursky versus an older Tim Storm or an inexperienced JAC. Wrecking Ball is not exactly a ring general in that ring. Storm did fine. Wrecking Ball and JC had a rough combo to watch. Lots of underwater wrestling, a lot of slow moving, kind of just it wasn't look good. It didn't look good. Crowd wasn't in the match. Wasn't really good. The story was over before it even started with Jax Dane not even being here. Is what it is. We're going to promo from Natalia Markova. She has a match next episode against Kenzie Page. She's facing Paige for the title. She has respect for Paige, but she says that she deserves the title because she's been that close before. I can beat you. Next week, let's have a great fight. Babyface stuff. Match number 2, Miss Samantha Starr versus Taylor Rising. This match was the drizzling shits. This match was so bad. People dog on the NWA. People dog on the NWA. And again, I understand why people dog on the NWA. Completely fair. This is the match quality that you expect from the people dogging on the NWA. This match was bad. Miss Starr comes out. She's wearing a bedazzled neck brace from jiu-jitsu training. So the entire idea is that she can't wrestle or she's hurt. She's neck strong, though. Rising, I've seen her before, but I thought she was not good here. She's got a lot of weak strikes. There's a point where they're both on the outside. Taylor Rising goes for a sort of running Hurricane Rana off the apron onto the floor. But some miscommunication happened where you can see Rising trying to turn her body mid-air, but Starr takes it like a seated senton, takes a back bump instead of rolling into the Hurricane Rana. So it looked really bad, really rough. It was really a bad botch. And then eventually Taylor Rising wins a roll up. I thought Rising isn't great, but she's got something. Like, I look at her and I think that she's like a solid NXT talent. She can go into those like random women's NXT 6-mans that happen on pay-per-views. She got a good look. She's got good gear. She can do some high spots, but she still does a lot of like stutter stepping. She's still very new. I don't know how new. I know she's been wrestling for a little bit, but she's still very new. She has been wrestling since 2019. And even then, she wrestled 3 matches in 2019. So realistically, like for a longer amount of time since 2021, she's still very new. But at least she was good enough. Miss Star, I don't know what it was. Lack of trust, lack of ability. Miss Samantha Star, aggressively bad. She's botching moves multiple times throughout the match. She is billboard telegraphing some of her spots, like, elbow strikes. She's billboard telegraphing them way too early. And the moves themselves are weak looking. Really bad. I'm glad Rising got the win here. Looks like they're setting up. She won a triple threat. She won this singles match. Maybe they're setting her up against Kenzie Page down the line. But Miss Star, not a good wrestler at all. This was bad all types of ways. All types of ways. We got a Kenzie Page promo. One of the best things on the show. You can't get the job done, Natalia Markova. You drop the ball every time, even when Bailey Corrigan has given you everything. I'm going to outsmart you every time. It's going to be 1, 2, 3 for old KP. Great promo. I wrote down here, Kenzie Page does the NXT heel champion better than anyone on the roster right now. Better than Roxanne Perez, better than Cora Jade. Kenzie Page does it better than all those people. She's got something. Again, I'm just saying NXT champ level, but she has good wrestling ability and she can cut promos. She has got something, folks. That's a person to watch. There are not a lot of people in the NWA to watch. Kenzie Page is one of them. We get a promo from Vampiro. Didn't realize he was still in this company. Representing his team of Mecha Wolf and Alex Misery because they're challenging the USA Tag Team Tournament. Vampiro is confused by who the interview is talking about, and then he ends the interview. Spooky. Match number 3 is your main event. NWA US Tag Titles. Oh, no, sorry, not a US Tag Titles. It's the NWA World Tag Team Titles. Because what this is, they do this with pretty much all the singles titles in NWA. You can have a not world title. For instance, the Immortals, Kratos and Odison, were the USA Tag Team Champions. And they can relinquish those titles for a shot at the world titles that are held by Blunt Force Trauma, which is why they're having a USA Tag Tournament as well during this show. Or 2 matches during this taping. So basically, they do the same thing with all the singles titles as well. The main event of episode 5 is Thrillbilly Silas giving up his national title. I think they do it another time later. I'll get to that. So the Immortals are giving up the U.S. titles for the World Tag Team title shot here. Stevens has a loaded tape fist. I don't think it plays at all in the entire match. Commentary is really setting it up and it never happens. We get a promo from Kratos before the match to his opponents. Says he was told to give up their tag titles, but Kratos is dressed in casual clothes because his gear was stolen. But the Immortals will overcome this and fight. That's the promo. That doesn't make any sense. They were told to give up the tag titles, but he doesn't really want to because his clothes are stolen. But they're going to overcome this and fight and win the titles. Huh? They insinuate that it was Aaron Stevens, but we don't get any closure on that throughout the entire show. I don't know what this was happening. Stevens grabs the mic, says Immortals don't know when to quit. Quote, "You're actually thinking of giving up your titles, yes or no?" Kratos does a yes chant, and then the BFT blindside the Immortals. Kratos hits a massive tope con hilo over the top rope. Match finally begins. Match is all right. Ozen has a good hot tag with Danny Deals questioning if his Asgardian uppercuts are legal outside of Asgard. Great bit. Stevens distracts Odinson, but eats a punch from him. But the distraction was successful. That leads to the finish with Carnage hitting Odinson with a drop kick and getting the win. That's the end of episode 2. Extremely flat, uninteresting. Barring a good Kenzie Page pre-tape, show wasn't all that good. 2 matches that weren't that good, and the main event was fine. 2.5. Episode 3, Devil's Due. Match number 1, Mecha Wolf and Alex Misery versus Daisy Kill and Talos in the NWA USA Tag Team Tournament. Daisy Kill, I've never seen this person before, looks like a Brian Pillman ripoff. And he opens it by singing a song on a ukulele, dunking the city that they're in, Dothan, Alabama. So he looks like Brian Pillman, and he's doing a honky tonk man gimmick. And they're also the heels, by the way. And the face commentator, Joe Galley, says that he likes their song. So I don't know what Joe Galley's doing. I'm taking a lot of notes that, like, Joe Galley's not a great commentator. He's all right for what the NWA is, but he's not a good commentator. And I had no idea who Talos is. Talos, get this, he was the wrestler that played The Undertaker in NBC's show Young Rock. Remember that? Remember that show that was like last year? He played The Undertaker. And here he is, 7 foot tall, really athletic, really good big man with all that athletic ability. Daisy King's also got some solid in-ring ability. Mecha Wolf, we've seen before, former NWA Tag Team Champions. Alex Misery, new guy. He looks like if you combined Jimmy Jacobs and like WXW's Maggot into one guy. And this match is basically very simple. Things are taken to the outside. Alex Misery climbs an 8-foot steel cage section of the set, does a moonsault off into security, and then Talos attacks him, stealing his heat. Back in the ring, action's pretty good. Alex Misery is selling pretty well. Daisy Kill's got some solid in-ring ability. Talos looking great. Mecha Wolf gets the hot tag, hits a bunch of forearms and a cartwheel drop kick. Crowd was into him. Misery hits a springboard corkscrew to the outside. Talos goes back into the ring and destroys both guys, stacks the guys up, and pinned them. This was an interesting, confusing finish because Talos was meant to be the surprise because of during the match, Daisy Kill gets thrown into Talos, and apparently that counted as a tag because Talos does the pinfall, the finish here. Daisy Kill was the legal man at the time, and the referee treats Daisy Kill like the legal man, and maybe the referee counted a tag, but we don't know because the camera cut away. Maybe because they didn't count the tag, and they fucked up the ending. Fucked up the ending, fucked up the finish. Because this was taped. They could have easily cut away so you don't see the referee at all, and then play the finish where Talos gets a pinfall win, even though he's not being the legal man, and commentary has to be like, oh, I guess he's the legal guy. So kind of bogus. Good match was good. It was just very bogus finish. We get a Southern Six promo from the Mortons carrying Ricky and Alex Taylor. Carry very fiery promo. Alex Taylor, whatever. Match number 2, Kenzie Page versus Natalia Markova, NWA Women's Title match. Commentary keeps putting up the idea that Markova has had a lot of shots at the title, something that Kenzie Page noticed in her promo. I looked it up. Natalia Markova has had 2 shots against Camille for the NWA Women's title, and only 1 against Kenzie Page. This one. So before this match, she's had 2 shots for the NWA Women's title against the last champion. This is her first shot against Kenzie Page. Why are we saying on commentary that Markova's had so many chances for this title before? Camille was like 2023 too. 2022. Those are years ago. What are we talking about? What is this story? Anyway, the match is fine. 2.5 star. Not the best Kenzie Page match I've seen. She can definitely be better. But it's interesting. Like, Natalia Markova is an interesting wrestler because she's like a really good, she's like one of the best sloppy wrestlers I've ever seen. She ragdolls every move ever, which looks great, but also not. There's like a fluidness to what she does. She ragdolls her selling, but she also ragdolls her offense. Everything looks good and bad and weird, and it's really fascinating to honestly watch Natalia Markova. Like she's a great like squash wrestler, right? Because she's selling and ragdolling and stuff. You can make someone look $1 billion against Natalia Markova. But like she's ragdolling all the time, and it's really weird to watch. Gotta say. Yeah, I don't know. Match wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. Completely fine. Just didn't really click to me. I think Kenzie Page could be better in another promotion. She's still learning, though. She's a good promo. She just needs to get better wrestling skill. And again, I don't think NWA is the place for that. She would be great, honestly, in NXT. She would outshine Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade in an instant. I've talked so much. We are past the 2-hour mark. And I came in like with barely a voice. Can you believe it? This marathon I'm running here. What are we doing? My throat is dying, but we're not done. Because next up, after the match, we get, this is very weird. Vampiro and Alex Misery come out. Alex Misery holding black roses. They come out of the ring, and Vampiro gives these black roses to Natalia Markova. She doesn't accept them, drops them in the middle of the ring, and leaves. I don't know. We had a promo from the Miserably Faithful. This is Father James Mitchell's faction. Last we've seen of Father James Mitchell, he was doing cocaine at an NWA pay-per-view. Was that the last NWA pay-per-view? It might have been, actually, now that I think about it. Let's look that up. NWA cage match. Was the last NWA pay-per-view Father James Mitchell doing a cocaine spot? Let's see. I'm scrolling all the way back. Still scrolling. It was Samhain. NWA Samhain was the last NWA pay-per-view. And that was the one where Father James Mitchell does a cocaine spot. Or something. Wow. Times have changed, haven't they, folks? He killed the pay-per-view business, Father James Mitchell did. And now they're on CW where no one watches them, except for me, apparently, because I lose a bet. So we get a promo for the Miserably Faithful. They're upset that Mims attacked Father James Mitchell. Real vendetta hours over here. Sal Renaro, who's now bald, apparently, says that Mims may have friends, but, quote, not all friends are faithful. Nice little end tag there. Match number 3, we get that match, the Miserably Faithful, Max the Impaler, Judas, and Gags the Gimp, which, by the way, I had no idea who Gags the Gimp was. What a weird gimmick. That is the former Captain Johnny Yuma. That's who Gags the Gimp is. I don't want to ruin the magic for you all, but that's what it was. Versus the team of Mims, Dak Draper, and Carson Drake, who is apparently like an EC3 trainee. There's a opening moment here where Carson Drake tries to bribe Max the Impaler with money. She doesn't take it. She leaves the money in the ring just during the match, and the commentary cannot stop talking about how no one's picked up that money. And I'm just thinking to myself, does Billy not pay the commentary team enough? They're like, come on, someone's got to take that money. I'm going to go down there and get it. It's like, okay, guys, settle down. Lots of jaw jacking. The story here basically is that Mims and Dak Draper, Mims apparently was attacked by Miserably Faithful recently, and Dak Draper apparently did not make the save. So Mims and Dak Draper, former tag team partners, still tag team partners here, don't really trust each other. And Mims is doing a lot of the jaw jacking towards Dak Draper's way. And Miserably Faithful are have been driving a wedge between the two, i.e. the promo right before the match. Miserably Faithful, I think, do a good job of keeping Mims into the corner, isolated, constant tag outs, double teams. They're a very well-oiled machine. Mims makes a move for a tag, but Dak Draper gets pulled down and distracted, leaving Mims high and dry, playing into that even more. Eventually, Mims is able to tag out towards Dak Draper. Dak Draper comes in, cleans house. Sal runs out to attack Dak Draper. He catches him, takes him out. Judias and Max, however, they're able to capitalize on this distraction. They hit a spear and clothesline combination for the win. The heels win, the babyfaces lose. After the match, Mims then attacks Dak Draper. He's had enough of him. And he leaves him in the middle of the ring. Carson Drake, who's not really involved, but also still kind of partners with these guys, decides to also beat up Dak Draper. But Dak Draper then throws Carson Drake into the guardrail. Mims and Draper then meet up at the entrance ramp, stare each other down, and Carson Drake says, "No, I'm still involved," and he beats up Dak Draper again. And then Dak Draper gets Carson Drake out of here. And then off this distraction, Mims then suplex throws, like Kurt Angle to Shane McMahon, Dak Draper through the 8-foot-tall cage portion of the set to close out episode 3 of the NWA. We're moving right along. We're over at 2 hours, so I'm going to keep it moving. I don't want to go 2.5. I might go 2.5. Episode 4, Rats in the Cage. Replay this on the 6th promo. Match number 1 is the Kids versus the Slime Balls. Both teams have Z's in their name because they're cool. This is a team of Jackson Drake and Alexander Lev forming the Kids, and the Slime Balls being Sage Chance and Tommy Rant. I've never seen these people before. I've never heard of these people before, but I was hoping we get some good young potential performers. And I think we got one. The Slime Balls, this match was not showcasing them in any capacity. It was a lot of beat downs on Sage Chance, and so his job was just to sell. It looked fine. Tommy Rant got a little bit, but I didn't really see him stuff. The Kids are good looking tag team. They isolate the Slime Balls, Sage Chance a lot. Alexander Lev looks solid, looks like a solid enough worker, but the Carolina Reaper Jackson Drake looks really good. I'll say it here first, folks. Jackson Drake could be something. That's a guy I'm watching. He has good snap on his moves. He does this really good snap suplex. He has a lot of confidence. He has a good aura and presentation about himself. He has a really good frame. He's like maybe 6 foot something. Let's see. I think his stuff was on Twitter. His stats. He is 6'2", skinny dude, muscular, but skinny muscular, right? So good frame. And if he puts on a bunch more weight and muscles, there's something there. Like I said, his working ability is good. He's got good confidence or what he's doing. I figured out why he is the way he is. Because he does this sort of Oz Cutter lethal injection setup where he does the springboard, but instead of going for a cutter, he goes for a moonsault. And I realize this guy's an Ospreay fan. That's why I like him. That's why he's good. Is because he is doesn't have the look fully of an Ospreay clone. If anything, he looks more like a Kyle Fletcher type. But that's where this guy is. 6'2", 20 years old. Has been wrestling for 6 years. There is something here. If this guy is able to bulk up, continue his wrestling in-ring ability growth, and physically bulk up, there is something here. Again, though, and that's the problem with the NWA. NWA is not the place for this. He can buy his time. He's 20, get a little bit better, but do not live your career in the NWA. You got to find your way out and wrestle bigger people because there is something here in Jackson Drake. I'm telling you, folks. We get a promo from Austin Idol hyping up the next match. It was a last call match. The gimmick of a last call match is that the winner faction group picks the one member of the opposing team to leave the NWA forever. Idol's upset. He didn't read the contract. He didn't know that that was a clause. And he says, quote, the Austin Idol doesn't leave anywhere he doesn't want to. The NWA has to have me. So we get match number 2, last call match. Anthony Andrews versus AJ Kazana. These guys are former tag champions together, so things are exploded. Andrew attempts to jump Kazana, but Kazana catches Andrews and double legs him. This is a very short match. Lots of brawling on the outside. Kazana scoop slams Andrews on a thin steel ramp that really could have ended poorly. Andrew tries to mount a comeback, but fails again to Kazana. Kazana slams Andrews again and picks up the win. Very short match. This match was, I believe it was 4 minutes and 23 seconds. Very short. And Kazana dominated it. So we get to the post-match stuff. It's like, Joe Kazana, AJ Kazana's dad, asks everybody, okay, ask all the heels, why should you leave? Oh, you can't talk. Why should you leave? I don't care. And why should you leave Austin Idol? Well, because I want you to leave because you're yellow-bellied. And then the Kazanas discuss who they're going to eliminate and who's going to kick out of the NWA forever. And they decide, not Austin Idol. They decide Anthony Andrews, you're out. We're going to fake out. There was a lot of heat Joe Kazana had saying that he really wants to kick out. I really want you out of here. You're a yellow belly. I don't like you. But he don't kick out Austin Idol. I don't understand why. Why are we kicking out Anthony Andrews? I don't get it. I mean, fully this rivalry is over now, but why? Why not just kick out Austin Idol? You're putting a lot of heat on that. Why not? You want to beat up Austin Idol? Is that what this is? Still want revenge on him? I don't know. The guy's old. He's not going to wrestle. Oh, we got a Black G's return promo package. If you recall, Black G's has been out of this company for quite a while. I'm sure you recall. But he has been out for a while. He suffered from blood cancer, leukemia, I have to imagine. And he says in the video that he's officially cancer-free as of October. But he couldn't get back in the ring even then because in January, as he was prepping to get back in the ring, after suffering cancer, he got carjacked and shot in the hip. And so then he had to recover from that. But now he's back. He's moving. He's grooving. He's happened to be back home in the NWA. Very effective promo. I really felt for Black G's here. Suffering from cancer, never good. And then in that process, get carjacked and shot and live. That's insane. Honestly insane. So good on Black G's. Main event is the Southern Six, Kerry Morton, Alex Taylor versus Knox and Trevor Murdoch. Mike Knox and Trevor Murdoch in a steel cage match. This match was great. I think this is the best match I've seen. I went 3 3/4. Let's talk about it. Knox and Murdoch, the bigger dudes, immediately start beating down the Southern Six. Morton and Taylor try to escape the cage, but get cut off by the big men. Morton hits a massive crossbody off the top rope to Alex Taylor. Knox does the same to Morton. High flying heavyweights. Ricky Morton, at one point, Knox and Murdoch are crowded into the cage. Ricky Morton decides to throw powder into Murdoch and Knox's eyes, thus turning the tide in Kerry and Taylor's favor. Later in the match, Knox teases a double suplex on the top rope to Kerry and Taylor. They can't stop him completely, so they sacrifice Kerry Morton, and Taylor gets out of it and goes for a sunset powerbomb onto Knox, which is also a Tower of Power pain thing, where Kerry gets hit with a superplex. Murdoch then lays out Taylor. Murdoch attempts to leave the cage, but Ricky Morton slams the door into Murdoch's head, which then bloodies up Trevor Murdoch. Ricky then gives a leather belt to Alex Taylor. They start whipping Mike Knox, Trevor Murdoch, whipping up these boys. The video goes black and white because all the blood. And then I'm really into this match. There's blood. There's violence. There's a story happening that I'm enjoying. The heavyweight dudes are laying out the smaller dudes, and it's really the guy on the outside that has to do all the saving. And then Eric Smalls come out, a little person that is associated with Knox and Murdoch. He comes out of nowhere. He low blows Ricky Morton. He climbs the cage. I don't know who this guy is. Dives on the top of the cage onto Taylor and Kerry. And then when he leaves, Ronaldo Freeman comes out for some reason and beats up Eric Smalls. And then that's it. Weird little segment in the middle of this. I guess Eric Smalls is somehow involved, but just a random ass little person just walks out, kicks, low blows Ricky Morton, dives off the cage and then leaves, then gets beaten up as he's leaving by some other dude. I don't know. That was wild to me. The finish, Knox and Murdoch hit the finisher on Taylor. Murdoch looks to leave the cage. Ricky Morton tries to hit him again with the cage door, but Murdoch's prepared. He catches that door, slams it back against Ricky. He escapes, which allows Knox and Murdoch to win the match. A really, really great, bloody cage match. Lots of interference from Ricky, which is great because all that story was meant to do was to make up the size difference of this bout. There was this Eric Smalls thing, which was weird, but this was probably the best match I was ever going to see. 3 3/4. That's how high I'm going. Would have been 4, but I was very confused by the Eric Smalls stuff. 3 3/4. If you are going to take anything away from this, and any recommendation I'm going to give to you is to watch this match. It's the best match. Best episode of Hard Times. This was episode 4. Best episode. Everything on here was really good. Episode 5, last episode, Hard Times. We'll be done with it. Thrill-O-Vator. We get a Thrillbilly Silas versus EC3 promo package. EC3 will go through hell has gone through hell to retain the NWA title. Silas says that he gave up the national title to challenge here. He says that winning the title will change his life. The money alone will pay off his car and help his mama. EC3 says Silas needs to endure hell to win. He gets Silas wants to be the man, but not yet. You have to beat this man, the Overman. Oof. And this is where this episode is going to be a lot of NWA promotion discussion. Match number 1, Brian Idol, the former Mercurio, comes out. He cuts a promo saying he's excited to be in Dothan, Alabama. And he's excited to bring out his close friend, AJ Francis. The former Top Dollar comes out. Commentary says he's the hottest free agent in wrestling. I mean, he's been on TNA forever, but yeah, this was filmed in March. Francis reintroduces himself, but also doesn't want Idol to introduce him because the crowd knows who he is because they paid, you've heard it before, top dollar to see him. Says Idol is easy to manipulate, he doesn't matter anymore. He says Francis is the future of NWA and that this is the NWAJ Francis. Idol tells Francis to shut up or he will do it to him. And then the match begins because these guys were wrestling. And then they make this match no DQ as well. It's basically 50-50 to start. Francis grabs a door from underneath the ring, puts in the corner. Idol puts Francis through that. Idol hits a flatliner and then goes for the worst super kick, sweet chin music I've ever seen for 2. Francis then grabs an actual table, teases a choke slam, then a spine buster, then finally choke slams Brian Idol through the table for the win. AJ Francis, unwilling to go through a table, goes through a door, but he is willing to put Brian Idol, or Brian Idol is willing to take that bump for going through a table. AJ Francis, officially scared of tables. And here's the thing about AJ Francis, folks. He's been everywhere in this Top Dollar run. NWA, TNA, MLW. He's hitting up all these smaller minor promotions, right? And I got a bad feeling about AJ Francis in the NWA. AJ Francis is a guy that fits the bill of an upcoming NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. He is a quote-unquote big star in the wrestling sphere. He is a former WWE wrestler like EC3, the current champion is, like Tyrus, the former champion, like Trevor Murdoch, the former champion, like Matt Cardona, the former champion. These are all former WWE guys. And AJ Francis is here on the same show, same episode as a NWA World Heavyweight title match. I'm looking at this, guys. I'm telling you now, AJ Francis is going to be an NWA World's Heavyweight Champion at some point. That is this company. We had Tom Latimer promo. Latimer says he's going to win the national title in a 4-way later tonight. And he says already that he's a fighting champion and I'm the new champion. He says stuff that like he's already won the title, but he hasn't yet. So it's very confusing. But we get to it. It's an NWA national title match. The title is available because Silas Mason gave up the title for the title shot against EC3. It's against Tom Latimer, Blake Troop, Bulletproof Blake Troop, Paul Burchill, the Pirate from WB years ago, and Zion. Now, if you remember when you watched NWA, because I know everyone did, there was Zion, who was Robert Ego Anthony under the mask. This is different, even though it's the same exact gimmick, same exact mask. There was a different guy under the mask named Zion, not played by Robert Ego Anthony, but rather played by Victor, one half of the Ascension from WWE. This match, Tom Latimer, Bulletproof Blake Troop, Victor, and Paul Burchill. And it was actually pretty good. We get immediate action. It never really becomes, for any significant portion of the match, a singles match. Everyone's constantly getting involved. And maybe there's like 30 seconds of a stretch where is a singles match, but there's always people involved, always people breaking things up. Bulletproof Blake Troop gets a figure 4 on Latimer that Zion breaks up. Latimer hits Troop with a powerbomb for the win. We get a new champion that he predicted. Thomas Latimer picks up new champion, NWA national champion. Post-match, Bulletproof Blake Troop chokes out his lawyer manager. That's it. That's all you got to know. Also, we get a promo from Vampiro. He's mad that Markova didn't take her flowers, and he sees potential in her. All right, stuff's happening here. And then we get to the NWA World's title match. Thrillbilly Silas Mason versus EC3. Very slow match. EC3 is moving so slow. Silas is matching his pace. This is an NWA heavyweight style passed down from Tyrus. We are not moving quick in any capacity. Silas is constantly like overpowering EC3 because he's this big dude, but it's also a lot of like struggling to lift EC3, which kills the crowd. Mason's a big dude. He's meant to overpower EC3, overpower the Overman, but he's struggling to do it like every time, which doesn't make him look good. The commentary puts over that the crowd is shocked and stunned, which I think is a great word for quiet. EC3 starts bleeding from the forearm. He gets the Thrillbilly Silas hits the Thrill Vader, but doesn't get a 3 count because he's too far away. He's too tired. Silas very slowly runs and attacks EC3, and EC3 falls to the outside. EC3 brings Silas back in with an Orton-esque DDT, then into the 1%er and wins, retaining the title. This match was bad. I've been a fan of Thrillbilly Silas Mason in the past before. I like the guy. I think he's got potential. This was bad. And he's against EC3, who hasn't been good in, I don't know, half a decade, over that, man. Not been good at all. And I was thinking about, and that's it for the NWA, by the way. And I've been thinking about the NWA, and I was thinking about this as a whole in wrestling as a whole. Like, we're in a time now where there are 2 major companies in the US, right? AEW, WWE. Hasn't been like that since 2000 something. 2001 with WCW and WWE, WWF, of course. And I was just thinking about like that was like sort of the dying days of the territories, and then indies kind of happened a thing. ECW was very popular, obviously, but you don't really know about any other indies kind of around that time. And if anything, all of them kind of start 1999, 2000 while WCW was dying. And then as soon as WCW is over, TNA starts and Ring of Honor starts. And then that's kind of not really TNA, but more so Ring of Honor. You start, and over the next decade, next 2 decades, you start pushing forward into that indie boom. And I was just sort of thinking about the level of the state of the indies, state of these minor promotions, now that we have 2 major promotions in the States again. TNA dropped down a peg. Ring of Honor barely exists anymore. NWA is around as well. MLW is around. These are all your minor promotions. And then you have the indies, which are really suffering nowadays, I think. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. But beyond that, I think to myself that indie wrestling is not really anything anymore. The indie boom is over and has been over for about 5 years now, maybe 4 if you want to be generous. Because the only real big indie out there is like GCW and then like Defy and like West Coast Pro, Prestige. I'm naming a bunch of indies, but that's kind of it. And then above that, you have all these minor promotions like the NWA and MLW and TNA, which no one really even talks about too much anymore. And they're kind of this new level of indie with a TV presence. Ring of Honor was an indie, a minor company with a TV presence. That's what these guys are. If you want to watch honestly, this is my honest review of NWA Hard Times. It did this whole thing process suck? No. There was stuff that sucked in it. There was stuff that was really good in it. And the biggest takeaway I got from the NWA, other than the main event scene being garbage, poo-poo, stinky, is that if you want to watch for free with some ads on the CW app, indie level wrestling, maybe a little, I would say indie level wrestling for free that have constant storylines happening through the promotion and stories happening within the match. That's what the NWA is. You don't get stories through matches, every single match up and down the card, and stories throughout the show on indies really much anymore. You get the through lines show to show, maybe mostly the world title scene, but for a lot of the indies places, they're just kind of like popping up with cards kind of randomly. Who can make the towns? NWA, and also all of these are behind paywalls. You can pay money for all these things. NWA is free, and you get like indie level wrestling. It's like, for what this promotion is, it's fine. It's, for a lot of the part, there's good enough work in here. I enjoyed myself sometimes. You watching a show that is basically 50 minutes, 45 minutes long for free and getting stories and all this stuff. A lot of it stinks, but a lot of it's also really good. And what I saw was more good than bad, I think. So there is a place for the NWA. If you want to watch it, it's there. I get that people don't want to watch it. I get that people were turned off so much by Tyrus. I get that people didn't like the Empower stuff and how that went down. I get people not liking Billy Corgan. I get people not liking EC3. But there is a lot of other stuff in here. It is not completely dead. There is stuff here that has some value. It has a place. And whereas not every match is great, I'm not going to get bangers in a promotion like this. If I want a dumb little story to be told to me all over the show for multiple segments, multiple matches over the course of 5 episodes, that's what I got. If you want stories in wrestling along with indie level workers, that's NWA. And that's my case for the NWA, I guess. Check it out if you like. And that is it for Ring Post Radio. I went 2.5 hours on a solo show. I'm an insane man. But I'm glad that everyone watched this show. I'm glad we got a lot of viewers. We just got more viewers during the NWA segment, which I was shocked by. So I appreciate everybody sticking around for this. I've been Ryan Knightsey. You can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Knightsey. You can follow Scotty at Scott E Wrestling on Twitter. Follow the whole network at Count Out Pod. If you enjoyed what we do, then you can watch us a lot of places. You can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on Apple Podcasts. I don't think the Google Play Store exists anymore. Spotify. You can watch it everywhere. We have great shows on the network. We have Ichiban Sweetcast, Gore Dose of Death, which is Deathmatch Podcast. Ichiban Sweetcast, I should say, is a New Japan podcast. They just put an episode out previewing Best of the Super Juniors. We have Stardom Road, which is a Stardom history podcast. We have another podcast joining the network shortly. Spoilers. And of course, we have Ring Post Radio, regularly hosted by me and Scotty. We'll be back next week. Next week, we'll be talking about various different things. And I think it'll be interesting. We'll probably be discussing Stardom Flashing Champions, I have to imagine. We're reviewing that. Probably some more BOSJ discussions. Maybe we'll get a little Champion Carnival final. I didn't really talk about it, but we didn't talk about the Champion Carnival that much, so maybe not. We'll preview Marigold Fields Forever, their first-time show. We'll preview Noah One Night Dream 2. We'll preview WWE King and Queen of the Ring. And I don't know if I actually even want to preview that. It's in Saudi Arabia, I forgot. But also, most importantly, we'll preview AEW Double or Nothing. Big time show next week. Scotty will return. And that's all the wrestling I watched this week. So there's no match of the week either. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoyed my 2 hours of 2.5 hours of nonsense with half an hour, 45 minutes discussing the NWA. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Ring Post Radio. There is also a free Patreon episode on the podcast feeds right now with Scotty talking about the Observer Hall of Fame candidacy of Cody Rhodes. So we got a lot for you right now. I got like 5 hours of audio for you to listen to. I appreciate it. So until next week, I will be joined by Scotty. I have been Ryan. Goodbye, everyone.